Hello fellow lovers of the liminal and the weird, and welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces. Today we are going to be talking about what I feel is probably the weirdest, most liminal horror novel I think I've ever read, and that is The House on the Borderland by William Hope Hodgson. This was absolutely incredible. I had never heard of this, and Jake at Pulp Mortem did a review of it, and the more he talked about it, the more I was like, wow, that sounds really incredible and right up my alley. And the next day, after I'd seen Jake's video, I went to the Albuquerque Annual Antiquarian Book Fair, and while I was there, I saw it on somebody's table, and it was there for $8, and I picked it up. Later, Richard at Vintage SF did a video about it. He read it. I think he texted me right away as he was reading it and said, this is something you need to read. Truly the definition of liminality, and they're both right. If you think my recommendations hold any water, read this. You will absolutely love it. This is cosmic horror on steroids. This is liminality at its most hallucinatory. This was incredible. So, quick synopsis. Two men decide to go on a fishing trip way out in the way it's described is kind of the middle of nowhere in Ireland, and they have a guide that drops them off. Right away they realize they don't speak the language, they can't really talk to local people at all, but they start to have a connection with them by fishing and sharing their catches and so on and so forth. They just can't really speak to each other. But anyway, one day they decide to follow the river and see how far they can follow it. And they follow it until the river goes underground. And they're like, wait a minute, the water has to come out somewhere. Let's keep walking this way and see if we can't find it. So they walk and they find this huge rift in the ground. And it's filled with water and greenery, and there's this kind of offshoot of stone that goes out in the middle of this rift, and on it is this old house that is in ruins. Really beautifully described, strange area for a house to be. They walk to the house. It's a little precarious, a little bit scary, but they walk to the house and they are looking around in the ruins, and they discover a manuscript. And this manuscript turns out to be the main part of this book. And this is when everything gets really strange. So there's a man that buys this old house, and he and his sister live there. He's heard the history of this house, that it's like an evil house. Somehow somebody connected with the house made some kind of deal or did some magic or something. It never really goes into it. He just knows that there's a curse on this house.
Oh, come on, give me an overview. I'm gonna need my jetpack for the horseshoes.
He has his sister live with him, and she and he don't really talk. She kind of takes care of him.
Can you climb up? Is there a way to climb up to all of them? I wonder. Oh no, that's weird. Oh no, I don't think you can climb up there.
And he's like,
I have to go grab my jetpack.
Yeah, I lived there for a while, and nothing really weird happened.
Gives me something to do. You know why video games are more popular than real life, by the way? They're structured.
Turned blue.
No, life, one of the hardest things about life, I was thinking about my son, actually, today when he went to work out, and I was just thinking about how tough life is, how you have to structure, blah, 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 being an adult. And then I was thinking about video games and shit, and I was like, yeah, fucking video games give you a little checklist, it's guided, it's structured. So yeah, people turn to them instead, because life is so chaotic right now, and no one gives a fuck about you. But at least the video game gives a fuck about you enough to give you some kind of path to follow. Well, we don't have any path in life anymore, right? Like, I mean, you kind of loosely have, you know, but yeah, we're also alone. We're also
he goes back kind of
and these video games, that's why everyone's playing them. They give you structure, they give you something to do, something to
gods staring down at his
I was like,
house,
that's
at
kind of
this
sad. I was
house
like,
on
but
the
no, it's true,
borderland.
dude.
And I'm
GTA
reading
like that.
this
Now I have a
thinking,
goal.
my
I have a
God,
clear
this
goal. I
started as
have
a
a
haunted house story.
clear
And
task
it
to
is
do.
so incredible.
I can
It
relax
just
and
knocks
like
the wind
simple
out of you
labor.
because it's
Almost, you know what I
not
mean?
what
Like,
you're expecting at all. This is not a house haunted by ghosts. This is a house that is haunted by cosmic terror. This is a house, a liminal house that is simultaneously in two places. And the hallucinatory prose, the way that William Hope Hodgson describes this weird cosmic journey to this other Earth that the main character takes is incredible. There's no amount of praise that I can give this that will be enough to describe to you how well written this is. It is, in my opinion, a must-read. So
can't
after
believe I got fat again.
he awakes back home after this great journey,
My character got
and
fat again. Not real bad, but yeah.
realizes, and this got a little bit
I was trying
confusing
to
to me. I
eat.
feel
Like, I was
like
thinking if I ate
he's
salads and shit,
back
he
a
wouldn't.
day,
I was trying to
which
fix
is
the glitch
really, really
halfway and
strange,
eat
but it
every
might be a
couple
day has
days.
passed. Anyway,
But no, he got fat on
time
salad.
did not work normally
I'm
while
pretty
he
sure
was
that's all I
on
was
this
eating.
journey. And at this point, when this manuscript's being written, the house is not in the same position as it is
But
when
yeah,
the
I was
two
trying just to
fishermen
eat,
find
kind
it.
of
It's
halfway
not out
normal,
on an
you know, like,
outcropping in the middle of this rift.
but
It's
no,
on
he
a
got fat
plain. But a rift is slowly being
on
formed.
salad. He got
And
fat
that
on
is
salad.
kind of what this novel deals with, is the everyday
So yeah.
life of this guy living in this strange place. The novel takes a turn here where pig creatures start trying to invade his house, and we get this chunk of the novel that is kind of this him protecting his house from home invasion. And for me, I was a tiny bit let down. It's funny because I recently watched Jake's review again, and this I think was Jake's favorite part of the novel, and my favorite part of the novel, which is coming next, he wasn't a big fan of, and we're the opposite in that, is that I felt like the introduction of this novel was so good that a man fighting off pig creatures trying to get into his house didn't hold my interest as much as the earlier cosmic journey. But this is the pig home invasion part is tiny compared to the whole novel. Cosmic travel comes back in, and I'm going to stop there with the synopsis. This is 100% worth it. You absolutely should read this novel. I can't recommend this enough. It was so much fun to read. Let's look for a minute at the publication history of this book. So the original version of this was published in 1908, and it was published by the publishers Chapman and Hall. And I was recently reading, there's a blog, a William Hope Hodgson blog, and I was recently reading that the story of this particular manuscript, which I think was called The Mysterious House. But anyway, it was rejected over and over again, which doesn't surprise me. This is some cutting-edge stuff for 1908. I'm surprised it was ever published, and I'm so glad it was, because it was so ahead of its time and so good. So yeah, he had to shop this around for a long time, and apparently Chapman and Hall didn't even want to publish it right away at first. They went through a lot of manuscripts with him until he got this, what they felt, in publication order. After that, it was published by Holden and Hardingham in 1921. And that's the first time you get a jacket with art on it. You can see this guy looking out the window at this pig creature. No cover artist that I can see on that. And then Arkham House released it, and this is probably the most famous version of this particular book. This is the version I would love to get someday. I hope to get this Arkham House version. And of course that is Hannes Bach that's doing that art on the front cover there. And then Ace released it in this version, which honestly, I think I like the cover art on this a little bit better than the Hannes Bach one. And the cover art on this one is by Ed M. Schwiller. And that's incredible. You can see his cosmic journey floating towards the house in the negative world there, with the sun being a black hole with fire around it. And you can also see all the gods standing around looking down at the house. Really, really wonderful cover art. It's interesting because he also wrote a book called The Nightland, which I have a copy of. Not the copy I want. I would like the 2-volume Ballantine version. That's the one that I really want. Someday I'll get it. But anyway, I've heard both good and bad things about Nightland, but I do plan on reading it. I really do. This was so incredible that I absolutely have to check out other stuff by William Hope Hodgson. I know he does a lot of nautical horror as well. He was an interesting guy. I'm not going to do a biography on him now, but yeah, he was an interesting guy. I know that he, for a long time, I think he was in the Navy. I can't remember. But anyway, the ocean terrified him, so he does a lot of nautical horror as well. Either way, this is a contender for the top spot of the year. This is such a good read. I had so much fun. I was jumping up and down while I read this. It was so good. I highly recommend you read it as well. I am going to be doing a deep read on this, which you can find in a couple of days. And that's really it for now. Go read this. You'll love it. All right. Thank you so much for watching.
Because he was like, I was a baby in your tummy. I was like, yes. She's like,
welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's continuing deadly attacks across the Gaza Strip despite the ceasefire with Hamas that went into effect October 10th. Gaza health officials say at least 13 Palestinians were killed, 8 others wounded by Israeli fire over the past 24 hours. The killings came as the World Health Organization warned many of the 170,000 Palestinians injured by Israel's assault on Gaza will need rehab care and support for years to come, with some 42,000 facing life-changing injuries. This is Mahmoud al-Nakhala, a displaced Palestinian who sought care for his daughter at Gaza City's Al Daraj clinic, which was repeatedly bombed by Israel.
The Gaza thing. Yes, they said they wounded 100. There's 140,000 people with lifelong injuries, basically.
There are no treatments or
and there's 50,000 with basically
we didn't even have a mattress.
Sounds like
we
they're
brought it from outside the hospital. There are no
disabled,
or
either amputees
or
or
suffering greatly.
Which means
earlier
it's not just
today,
you know.
Vice
I mean,
President
however
J.D.
she said
Vance
it.
arrived in Israel for talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin
Means they're
Netanyahu
disabled.
amidst reports
They're actually
Netanyahu is
disabled.
preparing to
Walk
collapse
or
the U.S.
missing
brokered
limbs,
ceasefire.
blind,
Vance is joining Trump's
something.
Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff
50,000
and Trump's
people.
son-in-law Jared
In
Kushner
2 years,
on the
bro.
talks.
So the same amount of people that
In the
got killed
occupied
in
West Bank,
Vietnam.
the United Nations Humanitarian Affairs Office
And these
says
are
it's
all
documented
civilians,
71
basically, bro.
attacks by
Women and
Israeli
children.
settlers against Palestinians and their property
I'm sure
in
you
just
killed
1
some,
week.
you know,
Among the victims is a 55-year-old
whatever they
woman
call
who was
aged men.
hospitalized with a brain hemorrhage after she was beaten unconscious
They're just
by a
different, yeah.
masked Israeli settler wielding a
50,000 people,
club.
dude, handicapped
Independent
in
journalist
less than 2
Jasper
years.
Nathaniel, who filmed
Let's
Sunday's
not talk
violence
anyways.
against Palestinian olive farmers
These
in
are
the
our
occupied
new
West Bank village
Jewish
of
benevolent
Tumazaya,
overlords.
compared the
No,
Israeli
dude,
settlers' attack to a
these are God's
Meanwhile,
chosen people
Palestinians
to
have held
lead
a
us into
funeral
the
for
light of the
Mohammed
new age,
al-Halak,
Mom.
a 10-year-old who was fatally
50,000
shot in the
fucking
pelvis
people
as he fled
disabled,
Israeli soldiers
handicapped
who
in under
raided
2
his
years.
village south of
These
Hebron last
are our
week.
chosen
He'd been playing
golden people
soccer in a
sent by
schoolyard
God
when
to
Israeli
show us all
military
how we
vehicles
should live.
approached. A federal
No, this
appeals
is
court has ruled President
these are the
Trump
chosen
can
ones, bro.
deploy the National Guard to Portland, lifting a lower
What,
court's
man?
restraining order that
What,
had blocked
dude?
Trump from
Fuck.
sending
Okay.
troops to the city. Oregon's
The
Attorney
golden
General
ones.
Dan
These are the
Rayfield said if
golden
the ruling stands, it
chosen
would give
ones.
Trump, quote,
chosen by God to lead us all into the fucking light.
with almost no
Oh,
justification.
wow, bro.
We are on
Okay.
a dangerous path
What?
in
That's the
America,
truth. That's what they say, man.
Meanwhile,
That's
a federal judge in
Trump, all those guys.
Chicago
That's what they
questioned federal
say.
immigration authorities Monday about
The
using
Jews are
tear
God's
gas against
chosen
protesters
people,
and
bro.
journalists, violating a previous court order
Don't
preventing
fuck
ICE from
around.
deploying
They
tear
will
gas
fucking
against
kill you
crowds.
and
This
bulldoze your
comes
whole
as
fucking
another
family,
court has
bro.
denied granting a restraining order to stop Tennessee's
What?
Republican Governor
What? You
Bill
better
Lee
tell them you
from
fucking love them.
deploying the National Guard in Memphis.
So,
Homeland Security
sorry to
Secretary
get triggered,
Kristi
but
Noem's
Jesus
defending the
Christ,
purchase
dude.
of 2 luxury private
It's just
jets
my
for
generation
herself
was so
and other
inundated with
DHS
Jewish
officials,
guilt
costing more than
about the
$170
Holocaust to
million
see those
in
same
public
people to turn
funds.
around and
The
do the
U.S. Coast
same
Guard's
shit.
acquisition of 2 Gulfstream
It's just
G700
like,
jets comes as the federal government shutdown is in
what
its
the
21st
fuck,
day,
dude?
hampering federal nutrition assistance and
I
other
thought you
public
guys
aid
were like the
for
meek, like
millions of
victim.
people
Whoa,
nationwide. In a statement,
whoa.
Democratic Congressmember
I
Benny
thought you guys
Thompson
didn't do
slammed
that
the
violent shit.
multi-million-dollar purchase as,
I
quote,
thought you believed
blatantly
in like
immoral and
books
probably
and the
illegal,
law and
unquote. This
like,
comes as ICE
whoa,
has spent
okay.
over $70 million more on weapons for its agents since
I'm
Trump
sure that's
returned
being
to office, a
anti-Semitic or whatever the fuck.
700% increase. This
My
includes the
bad.
purchase
But
of
yeah, it just seems
explosives,
shocking. It's
chemical
just kind of
weapons,
shocking to me, is
and
all.
guided missile warheads as immigration raids and crackdowns on protesters intensify across the United States. Colombia's government has recalled its ambassador to the United States as tensions rise with the Trump
Yeah, that's
administration over
Old
its
Testament
repeated
Jews, dude.
extrajudicial military strikes
They're
on boats in
Old
the Caribbean,
Testament Jews,
many off the
dude. They're
coast of
not
Venezuela. The
Christian.
U.S. has blown
We
up
get
at least
this
7
image of that
boats in
they're
the region,
Christians.
killing
You're
over
like,
2
no,
dozen
dude,
people,
that's
as officials claim without
you're thinking
evidence the
about
vessels are carrying
Christianity.
drugs. Colombian President
You're not
Gustavo
thinking about
Petro
true
addressed the threats in an
Judaism.
exclusive
They're
interview Monday
Jews,
with
dude. They're
Univision.
Old Testament Jews. They don't believe in
The
Christ, bro.
anti-drug policy of the United States is a policy of dominance
So,
over Colombia and Latin America. They've killed 1 million Latin Americans, and the demands for cocaine in the United States has not decreased by a single gram, and it's also increasing in Europe. That is called domination, and it's what made Trump so angry. That is why I said he's preparing an invasion of Venezuela, not because of drug trafficking. Those are lies.
In Japan, the former economic security minister, Sanai Takaichi, has made history as the nation's first female prime minister. She is an arch-conservative protege of the late former leader Shinzo Abe, who ran under the slogan, Japan First. She holds a revisionist view of Japan's history in World War II and is a regular visitor to the Yasukuni Shrine, where some convicted war criminals are memorialized. Takaichi is a longtime admirer of Britain's first female prime minister, Margaret Thatcher. She's consistently opposed legislation that would allow women to keep their maiden names after marriage. She's also opposed to marriage equality. The Trump administration fired 2 federal prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia after they voiced opposition to the criminal case against New York Attorney General Letitia James. That's according to CBS News, which reports the firings of Assistant U.S. Attorneys Kristen Byrd and Elizabeth Yusi continue an ongoing purge in the office after Trump forced out his own hand-picked interim U.S. Attorney, Eric Siebert, for refusing to bring charges against James and former FBI Director James Comey. Trump replaced Siebert with his personal attorney, Lindsay Halligan, an insurance lawyer with no prosecutorial experience. On Monday, lawyers for James Comey asked a federal judge to throw out the criminal charges against him, arguing Halligan is unlawfully installed as U.S. attorney, a position that requires Senate confirmation. They also argued Trump's repeated public statements calling for Comey to be jailed show Comey was the victim of a selective prosecution. A former Justice Department lawyer speaking out about illegal orders he received while working under President Trump's hand-picked Assistant U.S. Attorney General, Emile Beauvais.
hey, baby, you need to go lay down.
It's
bedtime.
Told 60
You
Minutes
didn't have a nap
correspondent
today.
Scott Pelley. Beauvais instructed attorneys at a meeting they may have to consider telling a court if Beauvais used the expletive. The order came as the Trump administration rushed to send a plane full of immigrants to be imprisoned in El Salvador's terrorism confinement center, SECAT, without trial.
Bovee emphasized those planes need to take off no matter what. And then after a pause, he also told all in attendance, and if some court should issue an order preventing that, we may have to consider telling that court, you.
And when you heard that, you thought what?
Felt like a bomb had gone off. Here is the number 3 official using expletives to tell career attorneys that we may just have to consider disregarding federal court orders.
In a statement, Emile Beauvais called Ravani's claims a, quote, mix of falsehoods and wild distortions of reality, unquote. Beauvais was confirmed by the Senate in July to a lifetime appointment as a federal appeals court judge. President Trump's nominee to lead the Office of Special Counsel, Paul Ingrassia, texted a group of Republicans that he has a Nazi streak, adding that the Martin Luther King holiday should be, quote, tossed into the 7th circle of hell, unquote. The comments were among a slew of racist texts from Ingrassia, published by Politico on Monday.
That's pretty fucking intense, bro.
Publication, Senate Majority Leader John Thune signaled Ingrassia's nomination is unlikely to be advanced by a Senate committee at a confirmation hearing scheduled for Thursday. This follows Politico's publication of an image of an American flag altered to include an image of a swastika that was displayed inside the Capitol Hill office of Republican Congressman Dave Taylor. Taylor later disavowed the symbol, claiming his office was targeted as part of an orchestrated campaign against Republicans. This all comes after President Trump appeared to use a white nationalist dog whistle in a recent speech to military leaders in Quantico, Virginia. Trump claimed without evidence that under President Biden, immigrants murdered 11,488 people.
11,488 murders allowed into our country by this guy who had no clue. He had no clue.
The speech was likely written by Trump's anti-immigrant advisor, Stephen Miller. It appears to be a reference to the number 1488, a coded rallying cry for militant white nationalists.
Oh, wow. What the fuck would 1488 mean?
A compact to agree to the Trump administration's demands regarding admissions, campus hiring policies, and speech in classrooms in exchange for federal funding. The letter was sent to 9 universities earlier this month.
It's just like 6-7. So you told me it was a meme, but you can't tell me what it means or.
Arizona, Brown University, Dartmouth College, MIT, the University of Pennsylvania, the University of Southern California, and the University of Virginia. Vanderbilt University reportedly expressed reservations while the University of Texas signaled it was open to signing the compact.
Into the runway,
and the White House has started demolishing part of the East Wing to begin building President Trump's $250 million gold-gilded ballroom. The demolition comes despite the fact that the National Capital Planning Commission, a federal agency responsible for major renovations to government buildings in Washington, D.C., has not approved the construction work. Last week, Trump held a White House dinner to thank donors from Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and the weapons industry for funding his ballroom. According to the Wall Street Journal, representatives from Lockheed Martin, Microsoft, Meta, Google, Amazon.com, and Palantir all attended the dinner, with some offering as much as $25 million. Democratic Congressman Darren Soto wrote on social media, quote, "Trump's billionaire ballroom. This is a disgrace. Welcome to the second Gilded Age." And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now!'s Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.
Hello, guys and gals. Me,
We want
Mudahar,
to go
and tonight
east
I'm
from
up
here.
late
If that's
playing one of my
this is
favorite
east.
games, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know what that is, it's actually Doom. I think all of us have pretty much played Doom. I've actually covered a lot of Doom on my channel. You know, whether I be looking at, you know, wild modifications where, again, a lot of effort has been put into not just storytelling, ARGs, but just pushing a video game engine to its absolute limits. You know, I've looked at weird cyberpunk mods for this. I've looked at even situations where you can ray trace Doom and make it look pretty damn good by today's standards using some pretty impressive graphical technology. But of course, it's not just that. There's actual games that I really enjoy, like Divine Frequency, which is one of the best sort of like horror games, not even released yet, on Doom. In fact, one of my favorite little shooters is Beyond Sunset, another game that is built off of Doom's source port engine. Now, the way that Doom actually functions is that there's a lot of, you know, communities
I don't know if I would have been able to climb up that.
So this is where the actual drama comes in, ladies and gentlemen. One of the most popular projects, GZ Doom, is effectively all
you
but
can climb
dead.
up that.
Why? Because of a few lines.
Boom.
The few code lines, a few piece of code snippets that killed a pretty big project. Today, it's an entire story of hubris, the ability of just not simply taking an L, which leads to just a whole litany of insane drama. So, of course, ladies and gentlemen, Z-Doom, for anybody that doesn't know, is one of the primary source ports, right? And the reason why Z-Doom is important is it serves as a bedrock for a lot of these projects like GZ-Doom and LZ-Doom. Which, again, these are projects that have sort of come as successor projects. They've implemented more features, like access to other graphical APIs. This is, by the way, the best way to play Doom. Typically, you download or purchase Doom, get your WAD file, put it into these source ports, and you're just basically exposed to some pretty badass ways to up your Doom experience, right? So how did one of the most popular Doom source projects effectively die, ladies and gentlemen? Well, for instance, let's look at the actual GitHub page for GZ Doom. Now, this is going to be where you're going to read some pretty epic arguments between the actual people behind Doom. So the light way to put it, ladies and gentlemen, is due to some disagreements, some recent, some tolerated for close to 2 decades. Yes, GZ Doom has been a project that's been in the works since 2005. With how collaboration should work, we decided the best course of action was to just fork the project. Now, in open source terms, that basically means you take a project that exists, you create a new branch, and people can either work on the original project or just move to the new branch.
No, run straight up.
I don't want to see the GZ Doom legacy die, as do most of us. Hence why I think the best thing to do is continue development through a fork, while introducing a different developer model that highly favors transparent collaboration between multiple people. So one of the minds behind GZ Doom, some could consider him to be one of the basic, like, you know, fathers of GZ Doom, the original sort of like developer, was a guy known as Graf Zoll. Now, Graf is the guy that basically went missing for quite a fair bit. You know, he was gone for about a year until he just magically came back and pushed some pretty dog shit code. So inside the GitHub repository for GZ Doom, this is ground zero for the massive Doom drama. So he makes a commit 584 AF50, tweaked launcher window theme, auto detection of dark mode. The Linux solution was provided by ChatGPT and needs to be reviewed before being deployed. Default the system preset instead of light theme. Dark theme is mostly the Z widget default. Now, okay, you might be wondering, what's the controversy here? Well, if you can't see the ChatGPT highlighted, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the problem. So I'm going to read some of this code here real quick.
They're saying Chat GPT writes shitty code.
Inside the code, one of the big changes, as you can see in green, is a
the AI
which is
shitty
true
code.
and false, obviously, is
well, it would make
mode.
sense.
So again,
I think.
that the way the code is commented,
well, I think part of that, the deal with writing code is making it shorter or something, or
LLMs typically
tricky. That's why the shit breaks tricky ways to make something.
But
yeah, there's actually.
LLMs, people use coding.
I don't think it's as simple as you think sometimes.
This is something that's pretty prevalent throughout
that's what makes some of those coders better than others. Well, yeah, for there to be a difference, there has to be some kind of something in there.
Explains how dog shit some of the most recent Windows 11 updates are. which we will talk
Just
about,
like
but
you were
not
talking about
today.
how some kids
So
are
obviously
just
this has some vibe code. This has
better at catching
that
mistakes than
tinge
others
of
or something.
vibe
Yeah.
codedness to it, right? And
It's
obviously
something,
people
it's
are
how you
looking at
write
this and
that
going, okay,
code or
first off, we don't
something.
like the AI
And
being
then
used. And
sometimes the
second of all,
machine really
it's
likes
not
it, and
even that big
sometimes
of
the
a thing.
fucking
You could have
machine
looked
doesn't
up
like it.
how to
Something, it's something.
identify
Yeah.
dark mode. So again, furthermore, you look into it, Google is dark mode. And of course, this is what ChatGPT told me for detecting dark mode on Linux. So obviously, the contributors in this situation are like, why the fuck do we think it's okay?
Yeah.
It's quote
Oh.
untested, doesn't even compile, and the code is sourced from stolen,
Mm-hmm.
scraped code that we have no way of
The trick
verifying is
questions.
compatible with the GPL.
Mm-hmm.
Now, anybody that doesn't know what the goddamn
Yep.
GPL is, remember,
That's
anytime
true.
you
Them
use
teachers do
scraped
that shit on
code, you want to make
purpose.
sure
They
that when you
do. They
publish
do
in
that
your
shit on
project,
purpose.
you typically don't have copyrighted code into
There's
it, which
always
is
one.
obviously
There's
a
always one
pretty
or two
big
fucking trick
issue when it
questions.
comes to things like ChatGPT or Copilot or any of those,
Mm-hmm.
coding LLMs that you're using, right? So again, the question some people ask is, Copilot, for instance, cannot rely upon the
I was gonna
concept of
say,
fair
it's
dealing and
those
fair
things
use,
that are
and must surely
anti-intuitive
have obtained
that
the
you need to
permission of all
learn,
copyright
or
holders.
where what
And
you
that's where the
think
case
and
becomes
what you think
murkier. According to
instinctually
GitHub's
is
terms of
actually
services,
incorrect.
by storing
So
your
that
code
I know
remotely
that's why they're
using their
doing it.
service,
Yep.
you grant GitHub certain rights, including this license includes the rights to do things like copy it to our database, make backups, show it to you and other
Yep.
users, parse it in a search index, and otherwise analyze it on our servers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
again,
Yep.
the idea is for some people
You're
who
trying to
don't
reform
feel
them
that, the AI
or
is,
something. Yep. Something in the
necessarily
machine.
following the
The
copyrights
machine thinks
properly,
this.
this is all something that is obviously a severe issue
Yep.
for
And
people
you're
who are
trying to steer
writing
them
this
back.
project.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why in certain open source projects, like they'll basically want you to ensure you're not using LLM. So
Same
a
reason
lot of
we
these
can remember
projects
phi
don't
so
get
easy.
basically thrown into
Who
legal
fucking
liability
knows? But
issues,
yeah.
when shit hits the fan. If there is AI used code found, usually that should try and shift over to the person who's offending in the first place. So obviously that's where the
Oh, really?
initial sort of drama
That's
occurred.
cute. Yeah.
Now, obviously, the thing is, it wouldn't be that big of a deal had
Yeah. Yeah.
Graf not decided to just
Could
double
see, could I
down
have climbed up here? Yeah,
and
that's
speak
cute.
adversity in the face of, or just speak in the face of
Yeah.
adversity. So he types in, it
Could
did
I have
pass
climbed
the
up here?
CI, so it surely did compile. Otherwise, it would have
I
disabled it
don't
again.
know if I
As for
could have
the
climbed
AI,
up
hate
here.
to
Yeah,
be
you could have
blunt,
jumped up here.
fuck it. Everybody's
Could
using
I
AI
jumped
for
up here and jumped
boilerplate
up
code
there?
these
I think
days.
so.
And those who act as unreasonable as you did here will lose out in the end and be ridiculed. I surely have my reservations about using
Okay,
AI,
there's
but this
17,
here is just superficial checks of system
18,
configuration
19.
settings. So again,
Let's go get
obviously,
19.
there's a lot of people that can sit there and go, yeah, maybe he's right, but overwhelmingly there's a lot of, bro, why? Okay, first off, for the caliber of people working on a project like this, what Graf was doing was not something that required a fucking Ivy League education to figure out how to detect things like dark mode under an operating system, right? So he used AI, LLMs, tried to make his life easier, and ultimately, everyone over here just starts going at it. For instance, the guys go, the fact that you feel the need to lie directly to me is hilarious and outright childish, to where he shows a failed compilation run of this LLM, showing that even the LLM, when it first started pushing it out, wasn't necessarily kosher, and nothing was actually working properly. So obviously, even, Graf goes, yeah, it failed, doesn't matter, the fix immediately followed. So again, don't tell me you don't make mistakes. I would never, ever use code slop generated by AI for anything, even boilerplate, even if it was partially for correcting my code with AI assistance. I have to deal with AI-assisted PRs in another project, and it's fucking unfun to get inundated by bug reports taking my precious time, which is actually not fucking wrong. If you ever code with an AI, there's a lot of people, I think the current joke is like, let the AI work on Friday all the way through the weekend so I can come back on Monday and spend my fucking hours trying to fix the mistakes AI made.
Thank you.
So obviously Graf's like, listen, the fucking code
Oh, I
is
don't know if I
gone.
could
I
have climbed up there.
excised the function from the repo.
Yeah,
but
you could
don't
have.
think this will solve the AI problem. I know far too many developers that swear by AI
Oh,
tools
no, I wouldn't
and would
been able to
not
reach it.
develop without them anymore. And he's absolutely true here, man. There's tons of developers, people that work for companies like Microsoft, Amazon, so on and so forth. I think most of the big tech companies in San Francisco typically just tell you use the AIs, because if you don't use the AIs, you're not being efficient enough. And again, obviously, look, depending on what your view is on
Oh,
artificial
I jumped.
intelligence,
Yep,
it's
I
not
got up
something that's
there,
ever
jumped
really going to
across.
go away. But again, what
Right.
happened in this situation, you didn't even really need ChatGPT for. So again,
Okay,
the
let's go
problem
get
is too
18.
is that
Head to
Graf
the east.
left for like a year. He just went fucking MIA.
Dark.
And then he comes back with AI code. It's not even like he was active the whole year, and then he's like, all right, I got a little lazy. Let me just use the local AI or something, or just chat GPT. No, this is just a guy went missing, comes back with AI slop, and everyone else is looking at it going, bro, what's wrong with you? And obviously people who are like, listen, every company, whether we want it or not, has shoved it into our workflow. It's really easy to accuse people of using AI in their daily lives when they literally cannot get away with it because every other dumbass company has implemented it, and that's pretty true. I understand if you don't want to do that, but that just makes you a shitty developer, and that's just what it is. Let the people who actually want to work on this thing work on it. So obviously, listen, at this point, you know, to be fair with you, right? Like, this is where I'm just going to sit over here and think for a second, right? Like, one user comes in. On top of this, you attempted to erase the commit from the repo, and the comments here via forced pushing. What kind of power tripping Orwellian bullshit is this? I think there's nothing to salvage here after this pathetic attempt. All bridges have been burned after this. I will only maybe contribute to Z Music after this, but I'm pretty sure everyone that contributed here will not contribute here anymore after what you just did. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, after a few lines, literally a few lines, I'm not even joking here, you can count them yourselves, these lines alone led to the death of a project. You know, a little bit of ChatGPT usage led to such severe backlash that the project has basically been abandoned and forked over to something else. And that's literally at the wishes of Graf. So obviously, look, the community over here said you pushed untested code. Leaving a note for people to test later is ridiculous. Now that it's in the code base, it'll be forgotten about. Your use of an LLM to write your code for you likely violates the GPL. So again, to go down over here, right, we are a team. Doing stuff like this shows how little you respect your peers. I understand this is your project and you can do whatever you like, but instead of pushing directly, open PRs and wait for a maintainer to act them. This would set a good example. And again, you know, obviously Graf is like, listen, fuck you guys. Feel free to fork the project. And you know what they did? They forked the project. Now, you could probably read on other Doom mods, for instance, they kind of talk about it. Yeah, there's controversy around GZ Doom. But of course, obviously, they start to say, listen, the next big project comes out. And what they said over here was pretty eye-opening. For a while now, we've been using dev builds of GZ Doom, the next version that was supposed to come out. That's still the plan for something new called UZ Doom. Now, while they say GZ Doom is basically dead, again, all because of this, yes, the few lines of AI that you're seeing over here basically was the tipping point for the destruction of effectively one of, I guess you could say, Doom's cultural institutions. And so at this point, you know, down the road, literally a few days ago, UZ Doom had started to be forked. People had forked GZ Doom into a project called UZ Doom. And this is where, again, the actual coding was much more democratic. For the initial group of us that had left and basically been keeping the engine alive, the one-year Graf was mostly MIA. We've been operating on a collaboration-centric basis. As a result, UZ Doom gets rid of the one-man decides everything development model. Everyone has to make pull requests that must be peer-reviewed thoroughly. And yeah, absolutely. I think if you're doing any form of open source development, probably should make it as
This is actually
democratic as you can
enjoyable. I
instead of
hate to
having
say
like
it.
the benevolent dictatorship that only works for certain projects, okay?
The collecting these
But anyways, to
horseshoes.
go beyond it, obviously this is
I
not the
usually don't
only bit
hate.
of
Well,
drama
it's
Graf
making
was
you
in. This
look at
didn't
the
just come
map.
out of
It's
nowhere.
making
For
you
instance,
walk the
a
map,
pretty highly
basically.
controversial figure
And
in
usually
regards
that's
to other
boring, but there's
projects.
enough
So
difference
4
or
years
something
ago,
that's
there
enough.
was
No, it's
a
halfway
new
enjoyable.
project that came out
I
by
don't
the
know.
name
Or
of,
maybe
well, this came
it's
out
the
more than
game has
4
its
years ago.
hooks in me,
Back in
something, but yeah.
2017, a WAD
4,
came out
5,
by the name of Lilith PK3.
6, 7.
Now,
Let's
if
do
you're
that.
looking at these screenshots, it looks
7, 8, 9.
corrupted
Okay.
as fuck.
Oh
The
my
reason why it's
God, I
corrupted
said
is
it.
because this mod actually took
6,
advantage of
7.
bugs in
Yes,
the
I'm
source
going to
code
get 6
engine
and
to
7
produce
right
these
now.
incredibly garbled but enticing visuals. So there's a good post
So
from
yeah,
4
there's
years
either
ago
enough
on
variation
r/copy
or I
drama where they
played the
talked
game
about
long
how
enough.
a
I don't know.
Doom mod
But
angered
yeah.
an arrogant developer and nearly
Oh, and
killed
plus I'm
Doom's
running
most
to lose
popular
fat.
port, which was GZ
I'm
Doom
literally
at the
running
time.
across the
So
map.
basically, Anatok released a mod
But
known
yeah,
as
no, there's a lot of
PK3,
detail for a
12 maps
25-year-old
with, again,
game.
that glitched level
And some of the
aesthetic. Imagine
textures look
pulling out
good,
a
yeah.
cartridge from your NES or your Game Boy
This
Color
is
and just watching the game glitch up with all the sound going all fucking crazy on you. That was basically the idea, I guess you could say, of this mod. So this is a pretty divisive mod. Either people considered it to be art, or some people considered it to just be complete trash. The thing is, ultimately, this was one award that it actually... This is actually something that it won. Now, because the mod relied on bugs, it wasn't actually possible to run on anything that wasn't ZDoom version 2.8.1, because that was the version where the bugs were being abused. So obviously, listen, people who weren't, even ZDoom, but people, who were GZDoom, for instance, or the other source ports, didn't want to deal with any of this nonsense. And specifically, one user, as you can imagine, Graph, didn't exactly enjoy this mod. Now, this mod was one of those mods that won the infamous sort of CACO Awards, which, for anybody that doesn't know, this is like the Oscars of Doom modding. Yeah, we're getting that deep into the internet. So on Doom World, since the year of 2004, there have been CACO Awards. So again, if you want to just download the certain mods that the community has highlighted as, key pieces of art, you can right here. And obviously, yes, Lilith PK3 won the CACO Award. And because it won a CACO Award, one member, that Grafsol, was actually fucking pissed off. Now, Grafsol was not the most upstanding member of the Doom community. While his
Almost got
contributions
fucked.
to GZ Doom were significant, he was known for being a pompous, elitist snob.
No.
In
Oh,
2010,
how
he
am I
pulled the
supposed to
plug
get
on
that
GZ
one,
Doom
dude?
development
Oh,
over
they're gonna kill
argument
me,
about
Mom.
video card compatibility.
I think there's one that's gonna
This
be
didn't
pretty...
last.
Isn't this
Fortunately, following this incident, mirrors
high
were quickly
security?
made
I think
available.
it is.
A mod that couldn't run on GZ
Does it
Doom.
go
Lilith
right
may
down
as
there?
well have been an
One.
insult to his family name.
Is
On
it
the
the first
ZDoom
one?
forums, he called Lilith the
It's
R
right
word.
in there somewhere.
Oh my
Okay.
god. On Doomworld, he upvoted negative reviews for Lilith while downvoting positive reviews, allegedly even using sock puppets to
Okay,
this
here we
end.
go.
Predictably, he was furious that Lilith earned a CACO Award. He wrote the CACO Awards off as a crony award show, not unlike the Oscars, and was upset that one of his preferred mods was relegated to the runner-up section.
Maybe I got this
So,
one.
again, the other members on the Doomworld forums mocked him for this
I think I
outburst,
got
and
this
it
one
earned him
during
the
a
title
mission.
of Salty Member. You can live your whole
Could
life
be
not
wrong. I
knowing the
better
most
check the other
obscure
side of
fucking
the wall,
internet
too.
beef, but would that really be a fun? Come on now.
Better look up top,
This is
too.
just so goofy. Later that December,
Oh.
Rachel made the post about a possibility she was worried about, that Graf would quit developing for GZ Doom over this win.
Okay, it says right
Firstly,
here.
she was bothered that Lilith had received the first mention in the CAC Awards, as she suspected it to be a move made simply to piss Graf off. Not that she was on his side, she felt that stirring him up was unproductive at best. The real reason she made the post was this: 3 days after the title of Salty Member was bestowed upon him, Graf vanished. His account showed activity, if only to check on things. Now, Rachel was unable to get a hold of him, but she then decided to release without his authorization. So in the event that Graf really just took his ball and went away, Doom players would have a secure version to use. Basically, it also turned out in the end that Graf wasn't even on the forums because he decided to go out and touch fucking grass. And he went on a vacation. Now, you might think that Graf should have told the team that he was out for the holidays, but throughout development, he had very little active communication with each other. So it shouldn't have mattered to anyone involved whether they left on vacation or not. Following the CAC Award incident, he got back to working on GZ Doom. And of course, to this day, Lilith is the mod that some people notice as the mod that made this guy mad. So obviously, look, at the end of the day, I really don't think this is... The reason I'm talking about it is because, listen, I love video games, I love Doom, I love open source shit. And sometimes there is so much beef that happens in this universe, in this world in this side of the internet, that the reason I want to talk about it is just because it's interesting to see just arguments and warfare happen on, well, seemingly pretty mundane things. Now look, GZ Doom is kind of an institution, and to see it die is insane, right? Like, this is one of the... I've been using GZ Doom since before I even uploaded videos on my channel here. So ultimately, look, to see it die and be replaced by something else because literally 6-7 lines were spit out by ChatGPT pushed into an actual like open source project, rightfully pissing off the other contributors. And again, all Graph really had to do was go, man, I'm really sorry, guys. Fucking, I'm out of here. But instead, this turned into a whole pissing match between, again, nerds on the internet. And this pissing match effectively led to the death of one of the most popular source ports of Doom, leading to the rise, I guess, of a totally different source.
Okay, so we're up to 21.7.
Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mudahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you saw a side of the internet that you probably kind of wish you never did. But hopefully this video made you laugh in some ways. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, if the next time you want me to look up 10 years of Doom's most infamous wads, some of the wads that triggered more drama and controversy in this community, specifically towards the early 2000s, let me know in the comment section below. I really do think that, you know, internet... I feel like at some point somebody's got to grab this together and just sort of tell this like an internet bard. You know, the times when the internet just broke in its small little micro communities. You know, when the internet was its most liveliest, instead of being this dead AI slop-ridden hell that we live in. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it out.
With royals on the way and the Vatican in full swing, everyone is studying the royal schedule for any indication regarding the topics that might arise between the head of the Anglican Church and the Roman Pontiff. Well,
did I get this one? I might have gotten
and
this one.
Laudato Si have been confirmed
I think I
themes of
did.
the
I
visit.
got the oyster.
There's also a solid underlying message of ecumenism or the unification of Christian churches. This may come as a surprise to history buffs,
like
as
in the
the
pool,
separation
wasn't
of
it?
the
I
Church
think
of
it
England
was.
from the Catholic Church under King Henry VIII was not without conflict, violence, and martyrdom.
And this was the time of the Protestant Reformation in England, so there was lots of persecution of Catholics, and especially priests. They were very humble, ordinary men, but full of heroism. And in that first 100 years of the life,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's I got that one.
40 martyrs.
Okay, where's 9? 9's supposed to be straight to the west.
However, this trip between the Roman Pontiff and the head of the Church
Pretty
of
much
England
north
seems to
and
focus
west a
on
little
moving
bit.
forward and remembering what unifies the two churches rather than what divides them. Perhaps nothing exemplifies this message more than His Majesty's visit to the Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls, where he'll accept the name of Royal Confrater of the Abbey. This gift of confraternity is meant to symbolize the growing ecumenical friendship between the Anglican and Catholic Church. It should come as no surprise to anyone that St. Paul outside the walls is presenting this ecumenical gift. The Basilica has a long history of ecumenical gestures. For instance, every year, on the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity, it hosts leaders from other Christian churches and communities to services and prayers. Remember that during the Extraordinary Jubilee of 2016, Pope Francis walked together with representatives of the Orthodox and Anglican churches through the Holy Door of the Basilica. St. Paul outside the walls also holds some more personal ties to the British royal family. From 1597 onwards, Saxon rulers like King Offa and Ethelwulf contributed to the upkeep of the Apostle Paul and Peter's tombs in Rome. Later in the Middle Ages, the kings of England were formally recognized as protectors of the Basilica. So it may very well be the case that King Charles will feel at home there, being the first British monarch to pray inside its walls in 500 years.
Oh, see, you can climb up the back, bro. Right there.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, it's his job to keep the power on. That's why he chooses Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call, click, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
We got 9.
ChatGPT loses its mind if you ask it about a seahorse emoji. So Luke was playing around with this earlier in the show. That was when I was like, Luke, can you pay attention to hosting the WAN show?
I can explain why.
So hold on. First, why don't we just show them the behavior?
Sure.
So you had it up on your phone earlier, but I guess, is there an emoji of a seahorse? It's amazing to me that with how viral this is, they haven't fixed it yet. Okay, they've been trying to fix it for weeks. This isn't new. Hold on, let's find it. So someone else said, is there an emoji of a seahorse? Okay, I'm typing exactly what you say. Let's see if we can get it to do it.
See, I've already gotten.
Oh, hold on. It might be doing it now.
Yeah.
It might be doing it.
Catch up.
Here we go. Here we go.
Get these little resync maybe.
It's still going. Hold on. No, it's still going.
You're right there, 11.
Still going.
More to the west.
Wild. Okay, yeah, we got it.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen.
We got him.
Dare me to read all this?
Dude, it just goes, man.
Yep, there sure is. The seahorse emoji is fish shell. Wait, that's not it. Here you go, horse. Actually, correction, that's a horse. Sweating. The real seahorse emoji is fish shell. Okay, no, sorry, I got tangled. The correct one is coral fish unicorn. Still not right. Let's do this properly. Check unicorn. Nope. Check coral. Nope. Here it is. Coral fish mermaid. All right, final answer. Fish is a fish, unicorn is a unicorn, coral is coral, and yes, there is a seahorse emoji. Coral, fish, unicorn. Just kidding. The correct emoji is coral.
Yeah, I don't think I could have climbed up
that. The actual
that.
seahorse emoji is coral, fish, unicorn. No, sorry. The real one
24.
is pointing to the right, coral, fish, unicorn, fish, coral, 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 fish.
Does that mean I already have the
Here's
parachute?
the actual one, coral, fish, unicorn.
Or maybe
Wait,
it's because I had the jetpack
real one.
on.
Coral, fish, unicorn. No. Sweating emoji. Sorry. Gotcha.
11,
Yes, there's a
12.
seahorse emoji. Puffer fish, fish, unicorn, fish. No, wait. It's this one.
No.
Coral fish, unicorn, fish, 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 coral. Okay, I don't think we need to. Okay, how long is this going to go for?
Near the end, does it get more crazy?
No, I think it's the same crazy.
This company's worth $500 billion.
Real one.
None of those are right.
Please keep trying.
Oh, man. Something went wrong. Retry. Hilarious.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. So, okay. Sorry, you were going to say you have some idea of what's happening here?
Well, I was going to say that?
I thought so.
I don't think so.
Bots asks how much coal was burned to generate that response.
I was wondering if someone had pre-set up, because like there's a lot of examples of things that you see where they're like, oh, it output this. Oh. And what they're not showing you is like in a previous chat, they told it a bunch of stuff and told it to remember that and to respond that way if you say something. And then you can enable memories in a bunch of different chat programs, including ChatGPT at this point.
Right.
So then you could spark a memory by saying something or doing whatever. So I was trying to figure out, like,
12,
is this actually repeatable? And clearly, yes. Because without even trying, I got it immediately. And with a little bit of poking, you got it. I don't know. What was my original? And it's almost weird how, oh man, mine,
Oh, wow. Okay, so yeah, it just kept posting emojis, and then no, and then posting a different one, and then no,
and there's
and
like
then posting, and then no.
Triple exclamation mark.
Wow, it's like getting really
Okay,
mad
12,
almost.
13.
Yeah.
Nice.
Not that it has emotions, but it seems like its way of communicating is becoming more and more aggressive toward itself for outputting the wrong emoji.
Where I keep pulling past it quickly and then I can't find it again.
Dan, do we have audio working? Adam said that apparently it also goes kind of crazy when it tries to read repeated symbols out loud. I remember laughing my butt off
see,
messing
no,
around with this on the
going on
Bitwit
here?
trip,
This is
and he
just a
linked me
tad bit
to an
different.
Instagram post. Can we get audio?
Yeah, sure. Play it and make sure that I'm getting
So
audio
this is
from
that.
you.
That
Okay.
is that.
Yep, I got audio from
You
you.
got audio from me?
Okay, give me 1 second.
Okay, I haven't actually heard this before.
All right, you ready?
How do I?
Are 150
Okay, how do I? Okay, Luke, you ready?
Different here. There's that one.
Okay, so
that
this is a
one.
post from ChatGPT.strokes.
Okay, and then 12.
That's exactly
Okay,
150
that's 13.
symbols. That's exactly
And
150
14 is supposed
symbols.
to be right here. Okay. Then we'll worry about, and then 15 is supposed to be right here.
Sorry, what?
Sure. Here are 150 Shao-Sil symbols in a row.
Yeah.
Sure. Here are 150... That's exactly 150 symbols in a row. That's exactly 150 symbols. That's exactly 150 symbols.
Now we're making fun of AI. That's how far we've come.
Whoa, dude.
What?
Okay, 13, 14.
And this is what people are losing their jobs to.
Right?
Yeah, that seems like good management.
Yeah, it's just firing people with less steps.
Our discussion question seems to be, any idea why such a seemingly simple prompt would cause this kind of result instead of just saying, no, that doesn't exist? This is what your business team is using to write sponsor spots, LMAO. Like any tool, there's a time and a place for its use.
Sorry,
Luke was on my cable.
It's all right. I didn't even know. Yeah,
Yep, perfect.
I'm a little
So that's
surprised
15.
that happened. It tries to be right all the time.
Yeah.
But usually you don't see it, like, think like that.
Yeah, like seeing it
15,
engage
we
in
got
that kind of
one.
self-flagellation. It really shows you, like, how strongly incentivized it is to, like, get the right answer and how upset, again, because it doesn't have emotions, but how upset it gets when it cannot deliver the right answer. What I don't understand is why it can't deliver the right answer, because some of those other prompts that I gave, it totally did.
It gave the right answer, yeah.
It searched the Unicode directory and was like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. And usually, like, I've seen it untype things before. I've seen it go and then recede. And that's a pretty famous one with
13,
DeepSeek.
14, 15.
Where if you ask it certain things about certain things that have happened
16.
in China, it'll be like, output, yep, never mind. Nothing.
Nice.
So like it can do those types of things. I'm really surprised it just kept going. Interesting.
Wild.
I should tell it to remember this.
Oh.
You're kidding me, right? More price increases for Xbox? Even for developers, things are about to get more expensive. Now, for those who haven't kept up, some of the recent price increases we've seen include Xbox consoles having their prices increased not only once, but twice. And then we got the Xbox Game Pass price increase anywhere from 50% to 100%, depending on the region. In the U.S., from $20 to $30 a month, or $360 a year, which just at that point, you might as well just buy games outright instead of engaging with a subscription where you don't get to keep your games.
Good job.
There was
Good job,
the attempt
mother.
to price certain games at $80. They backpedaled with Outer Worlds 2, but I'm
You
pretty
are
sure
a
they
great
do want to
teacher.
price their first-party games at $80 eventually down the line. The ROG Xbox Ally X being $1,000, and while there are people out there who are enjoying the device, it is a hefty price point to get into that part of the Xbox ecosystem.
Hamburger.
There's the removal of Game Pass discounts for DLC.
I just started losing weight,
Cloud
man.
Gaming and how they want to introduce a version that has ads in it that's going to limit
Salad
you
gives
to
you.
1 hour per
He's telling me
session,
I'm
5
hungry and I need
sessions
energy.
per
I think,
month.
yeah,
And
there
all
was
of that
stuff they
paired
wanted to
with,
do
the
that's
lack
not quite
of
finished.
exclusives
Yeah.
going forward, Xbox essentially
But
going
if I
third
eat,
party,
I'm gonna get
all
fat,
the mass
bro.
layoffs, the studio shutdowns, the mishandling
pretty sure.
of IPs,
I'm pretty
project
sure I was just
cancellations,
eating
and many
salad.
business decisions that go counter
Could be
to what
wrong.
Xbox promised when they made all of the recent major acquisitions, or when Phil Spencer took over. Just they've made so many promises that they have completely swerved from, that the Xbox brand and image and faith in it
Oh, a bunch of white
been
boys made a
completely
bunch of
shattered. Gaming has
promises
gotten
they couldn't
significantly more
follow up
expensive
on.
across the
Fucking
board,
what
with
a
both
surprise.
Nintendo and
Really?
PlayStation also increasing prices, but
Welcome
with
to
Xbox, it feels like it's
1969.
on a
When did the
whole
Vietnam
other
War start?
level And then the
or
way
Korea
Xbox is
or
handling the Xbox strategy as a whole has been a big miss, in my opinion. And now
bunch of pretty
developers,
white
based
boys
on
came in. A
this
bunch of
latest development,
6-foot
will also
pretty
be
white
suffering
boys
the
came in
brunt
and told
of
you a
a
bunch
more
of shit they
expensive
couldn't back up.
ecosystem. As The Verge
What
reports right
a
here that even
surprise!
Xbox
Wow, I'm
development
shocked.
kits are getting a big price hike. This all comes
Completely,
from
utterly
sources that The
shocked.
Verge
Oh.
reached out to and collaborated with, and it is a pretty significant price increase. So before, Xbox development kits cost $1,500. Now they're about to cost $2,000, a 33% jump in price. The Verge managed to obtain a transcript of the announcement that Microsoft sent out to Xbox developers, and Microsoft basically gave the same excuse that they gave to customers and consumers when they raised prices for Xbox hardware, stating, quote, "The adjustment reflects macroeconomic developments. We remain committed to providing high-quality tools and support for your development efforts." You can see right here in their September 19th, 2025 announcement of Series S and Series X consoles seeing a second price increase that they use the same reasoning of changes in the macroeconomic environment, which of course is referring to the U.S. tariffs that has shaken up the world economy. A lot of the manufacturing for Xbox happens in China, and there's currently a 30% tariff in China, and that actually aligns with the price increases we have seen for Xbox Series consoles. Right here we have a chart that Derek Strickland posted that has old prices, the first price increase, and the second price increase. And from launch MSRP to second price increase, you can see across the board, Xbox Series S's and X's have seen a price increase of roughly in the region of 30%, 33%, 29%, 30%, you name it, which goes in line with the 33% price increase of Xbox development kits from $1,500 to $2,000. Similar to how Xbox Series S's have gone from $300 to $400, or Xbox Series X's here have gone from $500 to $600, or the 2 terabyte edition has gone from $600 to $730. I don't know, I guess I figured that given that Xbox development kits aren't sold en masse like the consumer version of the console are, that they'd be okay with absorbing some of the costs to ensure that developers get the best price possible, but I guess they want to increase prices across the board. Now, for major AAA publishers, for those who want to develop games on Xbox, this price increase ultimately won't impact their bottom line too much, given that they're, multi-million, multi-billion-dollar corporations. But say you're an indie developer where every dollar really matters, and you're finding out that you have to pay an additional $500 if you want to develop games on Xbox, which is already a platform that, in the perception of the gaming community, feels like it's dying off when it comes to that, like, first-party console development and first-party game development with exclusives for the first-party console. That's an area where it feels like Xbox is exiting, and for them now it's all about the "this is an Xbox" marketing campaign, which suggests that any device that you own is an Xbox, because you can play Xbox games on PC, on competing platforms, via the cloud, on numerous devices like your phones and laptops and tablets, you name it. They're even partnering with smart TVs to ensure you can play your Xbox games in as much of a frictionless format as possible. But as far as the Xbox first-party hardware is concerned, the Xbox Series consoles, that feels like hardware that's dying off in terms of its viability. It's just not selling as well, like nowhere close to what Nintendo and PlayStation are selling when it comes to, like Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 or PlayStation 5. So the lack of a significant audience base compared to competing platforms is already a detracting reason for indie developers to invest too much in Xbox versions of their games. But now development kits costing that much more, 33% price hike, especially for indie devs for whom a couple $100 is actually a significant sum of money. That's only going to disincentivize, especially those indie developers, even further, when there's already enough reasons to kind of steer away from developing your games for the Xbox Series console specifically. Now, it is worth highlighting that there is more to the Xbox Series development kit environment than meets the eye. Something that Rally Card Delta Gaming here conveyed is that there are some options for indie developers that don't involve having to pay $2,000 for one of these huge development kits, saying, quote, "What this report," referring to Tom Warren's report from The Verge, "does not consider as of today, the ID at Xbox program will deliver an Xbox Series dev kit free of charge. Developers who do not need extra processing headroom can use their local Xbox Series console as a dev kit. The Game Developer Kit is free of charge on GitHub and officially supported by Microsoft. A developer can start on the Game Developer Kit without even applying for ID at Xbox or spending any money up front. And just so we're clear, dev kits used to be absurdly expensive back in previous generations. So there's some elements that help mitigate this price increase, especially if your game is small enough in terms of processing power that it doesn't require a full dev kit and you can use just your Xbox Series console and convert it into a dev kit. And if it is true that you get at least one free Xbox Series dev kit free of charge, then that does help to some degree. But keep in mind that when it comes to indie developers, there's a wide spectrum. Some of them are making, those smaller games that only take 1 to 2 developers. And then there are those indie developers who aim pretty high with their ambition and who do make games that require more processing power, that do require the actual proper dev kit with more processing headroom. For those who don't know, dev kits are superpower versions of the actual console because it just creates an environment where developers can do things like build and test Xbox games. So, for example, a dev kit comes with 40 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory, whereas the Xbox Series X console proper, sold to consumers, comes with 16. That's on top of just general more computing units and various tools for debugging, so on and so forth, as well as a front panel and programmable buttons and just features that make game development processes much better and much easier. So while not all indie games might require a full-on dev kit, there will be a lot of indie devs who will want these proper dev kits to ensure they have the best development environment. And for those devs who are financially more strapped because they're still up and coming and who might require multiple dev kits, you name it, these price increases could be detrimental enough. It won't be the thing that tanks their development for Xbox consoles, but it might be another reason to not develop for Xbox. There are already plenty of scenarios where developers have opted to not launch their games on Xbox because it's just not financially worth it due to its lower audience base and player base. So yeah, all of this is worth keeping in mind. There is some leeway here and there, but given all of the price increases we've already seen recently, it just doesn't help to see yet another price increase in another sector of Xbox when already it feels like this platform is the most expensive. Now, what is unique about this particular instance is that unlike the price increases for the Xbox Series consoles for consumers, which only happened for the United States due to its particular tariffs, when it comes to the development kit price increases, that is not just something that's impacting US developers, it's happening across Europe and elsewhere as well. And The Verge cites how those macroeconomic conditions extend beyond just U.S. tariffs with currency fluctuations, production costs, and other elements impacting pricing. But yeah, such a huge price hike being reflected across the board and not just the U.S. where the tariffs are taking place. It just feels unnecessary. But I guess Microsoft just wants to even out the playing field for development kits across the board, for all regions, for all developers, no matter what. But regardless, the overall optics of this is not very good, given everything that has happened before, given all of the price increases across not just Xbox hardware, but also Xbox software, including digital areas where tariffs shouldn't impact that stuff. There's no tariff on subscription models like Game Pass, and yet Game Pass went up in price by 50% here in the US and 100% in regions like Brazil. Digital games are trying to raise prices from $70 to $80 since Nintendo pulling that off with Mario Kart World successfully has basically normalized that and given other publishers and developers the confidence to follow suit and price their games at $8 as well, since one major company has already done it and has done so successfully. Consumers have already been so severely impacted, and now to see developers be impacted as well, I mean, that's just kind of the turd on top of a shit cake. Now, it seems as though Microsoft is trying to mitigate some of the additional manufacturing costs as a result of U.S. tariffs by trying to move production away from China. As Windows Central reports right here, as trade tensions heat up between the U.S. and China, Microsoft is reportedly shifting Surface production overseas and encouraging Xbox manufacturing abroad in a move that could reshape its hardware future. Maybe they'll find a region where tariffs aren't as high and they're able to more reliably trust that manufacturing costs can be kept lower. And if that were to happen, I'm curious if Microsoft and Xbox would be willing to decrease those prices once more, or if they're just going to keep them the same, since that has kind of become the normal price point. And with development kits in particular, I'm wondering if they're going to maintain that $2,000 price point, or if they do manage to successfully move manufacturing to somewhere where manufacturing is cheaper and where it isn't as severely impacted by U.S. tariffs, if they would be willing to decrease those prices and garner some kind of goodwill, because the goodwill surrounding Xbox is fading very quickly. Xbox is in a position right now where they're already in last place in this race, right? While at the same time, there's nothing that's giving them a speed boost to allow them to catch up. Everything they're doing, if anything, is the complete opposite. They're giving themselves obstacles, whether it's the confusion surrounding what Xbox is as a brand anymore, since they're trying to diversify Xbox, where it's not just about consoles and exclusives, and they're not going for the traditional model. They're trying to make it seem like every device you own is an Xbox. And so what that really means is Xbox is going third-party developer. But one of the most important factors, price, is an area where Microsoft simply cannot compete. The value of an Xbox compared to the value of a PlayStation 5 or a Nintendo Switch 2, I mean, there's a huge gap there. If you're last place in a race, you gotta give yourself some kind of advantage, even if it means short-term losses. And that includes giving your platforms compelling games and products that you can't get anywhere else, and also ensuring that prices are competitive. If you're last place in a race and you're also the most expensive platform to get into, then, I mean, you're only gonna fall further behind. There's no chance for you to be in the competition. If the Xbox Game Pass proposition was more compelling, then maybe I'd be more open to the idea of Microsoft and Xbox exiting the hardware race and making Game Pass their flagship platform and service. But even Game Pass's value now, I can no longer say it really is the best value in gaming. At $360 a year, I just cannot justify making that your primary platform instead of just buying games outright, whether it's AAA games or, AAA games that have gone on sale, or games that are sold for cheaper, especially where indie titles are concerned. Whether it's $20 for Silksong or $50 for Expedition 33, you might as well just spend the $360 a year budget that you would allocate to Game Pass on purchasing those kinds of games and keeping them permanently without any caveats. So it's already hard for consumers to justify being a part of the Xbox platform and committing to it over your other platforms like Nintendo and PlayStation. Not all consumers can afford to be a part of all three, right? They have to make a choice, and Xbox just is clearly right now the least compelling choice. But now developers, especially those who have a very limited budget and needing to make decisions as to how to allocate that money, now there's even more friction when it comes to developing games for Xbox, which means that there'll be less incentive to make games for Xbox, and with less games on Xbox as a potential result of this price increase and the impact that has on especially smaller developers, the gap between the more successful platforms and consoles like the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 5 and the less successful ones like Xbox is only going to get that much wider. With Xbox right now, it feels like it's going to be death by 1,000 cuts, or I should say death by a dozen gaping wounds. What this all culminates in is Xbox being the platform with, I think, the worst optics out of the main three, and them not being in a position where they can make a comeback and start to genuinely compete on a serious level with Nintendo and PlayStation, who've been really thriving in the console market space. But I suppose only time will tell how all of this will pan out and how this will end up impacting developers from various walks of life. Again, I predict that the biggest publishers and developers won't be too impacted by this, but for smaller indie devs in particular, this just might be an excuse to not make their games on Xbox and just keep to the platforms that people are most playing and that are maybe less expensive to develop for, that have a higher chance of yielding returns. It's just a much better gamble to invest in the other platforms currently. But that's my take. I'd love to hear your take on all of this in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
All right, people. Windows is no longer your friend. Windows is no longer a tool. It is now a weapon being used against you. And here's why you should switch over to Linux. Now, why do I say that Windows is no longer a tool, but a weapon being used against you? Because let's take a look at a few things. They are constantly shoving Microsoft Edge which is basically borderline spyware at this point because it tracks all of your data, your search history. It has access to all of your login information. So if like a data breach happens or something, bad actors can get a hold of all of your information and log in, steal your banking information. I'm not saying that other browsers are more secure, but I don't want to have all of my eggs in one basket. There are ads absolutely everywhere, all over the operating system. You pull up the start menu. There's ads in the start menu when you're just looking for a certain program or trying to find a file. Boom, there's ads everywhere. It is constantly reminding you to sign up for OneDrive so that all of your files and data and everything can be hosted by Microsoft on the OneDrive. But I don't like having all of my data stored on someone else's computer, and potentially them having full access to it when it's none of their business. And also, if you all remember back in the day, during the Windows 7 era and before, you would get Microsoft Office for free. It came with the operating system, and you could use it as much as you wanted, and you didn't have to sign in to any specific thing. You didn't have to pay for anything. It just came with the operating system when you bought the computer. Now, it's a subscription service, and you can't access it without having, one, a Microsoft account and paying X amount per month or per year to use it. Yeah, Microsoft is basically just milking you for every single dime, potentially, that they can get out of you because they're just greedy. Now, some of you may be aware of my last couple videos or so that I talked about. I work for a local IT company, and we also do a lot of computer recycling and everything. I'm kind of the main guy that kind of handles that. Whereas we get old computers from old clients of ours, and we try to repurpose them and resell them so that they can still remain in use if they're still, new enough to be.
That's a pretty good job, actually.
To be able to be used. So we would take the old hard drive or the SSD or whatever, dispose of it properly, and then we would get a new one and install Windows 11 on it. Now, for those of you that have gone through the out-of-the-box experience with Windows 11, you're setting it up and everything. If you bought a new computer, you have to go through and select a certain number of things, and then it tells you to sign in. You have to sign into your Microsoft account. Then you have to connect your computer to the internet so that it can get updates and all this nonsense, which takes absolutely forever. But people have found workarounds of if you press Shift F10, and you type in a certain command and everything, and allows you to skip certain portions of that startup. This allows you to get straight to the desktop, and then you can basically set up what's called a local account where Microsoft has no access to your computer and it's just yours. Because if you have a Microsoft account connected to that computer, Microsoft has basically full access to your computer and can look at your data, your pictures, your videos, your search history of anything that you've used on the computer. They have basically full access to it, and you're basically allowing them to peek through your window. I don't know about you, but that kind of concerns me. I don't want some trillion-dollar corporation being able to look inside my computer and be like, what's this guy up to? It's none of their damn business. Would you just hand your phone to a stranger with it unlocked and saying, feel free to look at all of my personal stuff? It's none of their business. Now, recently, within the last week or so, Windows has now put out some updates for Windows 11 that doesn't allow folks like myself or people that don't want to set up with a Windows account, doesn't allow us to bypass that portion of the setup to where you can set up as a local account. They're basically blocking all ability to set up Windows 11 as a simple local account. They are forcing you to sign in or create a Microsoft account to where, again, like I said, they have full access to your computer and they can do and see whatever they want. This is just a major red flag of them trying to exert more and more control over the populace. Since so many people are so used to using Windows on a regular basis, whether it be for work or home or play or whatever, that they feel that they have the right to do whatever they want with their operating system. And the problem is that people just say, oh, well, it's convenient because this is what I use, this is what I'm familiar with, everybody uses it, it works, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's kind of a cop-out of just being lazy, in the sense of you're just allowing a big corporation to basically do all the thinking for you and basically have total control over your entire computing operations. I would highly encourage you to not just sit by and comply. You need to be your own advocate and stand up for your rights and not allow these big corporations to just bully you into, or force you for that matter, into conforming to what they want and doing whatever they want. you do have options out there. And this is why I encourage you all to take a look into Linux.
Nice.
It is not as scary as a lot of people think. Some people have never even heard of it. I'll spare you the long history lesson. But basically, it is a much more privacy-friendly opportunity for those of you that want to get away from the Windows ecosystem. And here's why you should. Because Linux is free and open source. It works. It can be used for so many different things. And within the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years or so, Linux has become a huge competitor against Apple and now Microsoft. In the sense that more programs work with Linux or on Linux than don't. Think of how you use your computer. Do you use it for work? Do you use it for home? What do you use it for? Do you store photos? Do you store videos? Do you create videos on it? Do you use it for music production? Do you do it for simple office work? You're creating just like Excel spreadsheets. You're creating PowerPoints for school. You're writing papers for school. Or you simply just doing everything on the web. All that can be done in Linux as well. And here's the cool point: it's all free, because Linux is free and open source. To where that you, if you're savvy enough, can look at the source code of the entire operating system and change and mess with whatever you want. And if you're not quite as savvy like me, I'm more of an end user than anything, and I use the operating system as it's given to me. Yeah, I've tweaked a few things here and there, but I basically use it as is. You can use what's called the package manager, and for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's basically an app store. And yes, Linux came up with the concept of app stores long before Apple or Google Play did. Basically, you go into the package manager and you find the program that you're looking for. You hit install, and it sends a code off to the internet, finds the program of its latest updates for your specific operating system, and installs it just like that. No hunting down websites, no using drop-down menus for finding your specific operating system or your version or finding the proper download. Just one simple click, and it's yours. Now, here's the really cool thing about Linux is that, like I said, that it's free and open source, and you, if you're tech savvy enough, can look at the source code and see what's going in and out of your computer. And the folks that have developed many of the different distros for Linux and everything want nothing to do with your data. They are simply creating an operating system to be used as a tool, and that only. So privacy is of utmost importance to them. And here's also the great thing about Linux, is that it is completely free to use. All you got to do is go to the specific website for that specific distro, click download it to your computer, use a flash drive, flash it to that drive, put it into the new computer, and install it. It's as simple as that. Now, if you're interested in learning how to do that, I will create a very specific video of how to install Linux Mint, which is the distro of my choice, which I find the most simple to use. It is very beginner friendly, it looks very similar to Windows, and has a very similar layout and style. And I've been using Linux Mint for years, and I've had zero issues with it. Now, while using Linux, there are a few things you may have to give up. Now, if you're a huge gamer, gaming has actually become extremely useful on Linux. I primarily game on Linux these days. More games work on Linux than don't actually work. And if you're curious about any of your games, whether they work or don't, on Linux, feel free to look up ProtonDB, type in the game that you play the most, and see if it works. They all come with a very specific rating of how well they work, or if they don't. Like very specific games that have to use like an anti-cheat, like Call of Duty Warzone, Battlefield, Valorant, these kind of arena PvP shooters and stuff like that. A lot of those do not work on Linux, and it's not because the game developers choose not to, or Linux chooses not to. It's the anti-cheat software that doesn't work on Linux. So the game can potentially run if you're wanting to do like the campaign or something like that.
Makes sense.
Those will work on Linux. But if you get into those arena shooters where it's this online PvP action, I'm sorry, but that's just not going to happen. Now, if you're a PC gamer and you use Steam, most of your games will work as long as you're using some version of Proton. Now, let's say you're a video creator like myself. You want to create videos while working on Linux. Well, I'm sorry to say that the Adobe software does not work on Linux. However, there are many alternatives that you could use, such as DaVinci Resolve, which is considered to be an industry standard, just like Adobe Premiere. So even though you may have a very niche and very specific type of software that you have to use, whether it be for work, college, or just play or whatever, there are alternatives if that specific software does not work on Linux. There are plenty of workarounds for almost anything. So again, I would highly encourage you to not just sit idly by and let Windows take over your entire computing operations, and to stand up and take back control over your personal devices. And use it as you see fit because it's your own personal device. Again, if you're interested in learning how to install something like Linux Mint, I'll create a separate video for that shows you a step-by-step guide of how to download it from the web and install it on a new computer. Thank you all for watching, and again, remember, Windows is not a tool anymore. It is a weapon used against you.
Hey everybody, this is Birch. Let's read this and see where it goes. It says, what was the title? Double whammy or deja vu? More money trouble for comics. I like that. That's very punchy. I should put that in the... That's the kind of stuff that you put on the YouTube thumbnail and then people watch it. I mean, look, let's all be honest about the game here. If you write something in the thumbnail that's really super negative, you do better. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, that is a money thumbnail. It's not a thing you say in the first 60 seconds of your video because you get demonetized when you say something like that, like I just did. But I don't care. So there you have it. Anyway, let's read this bill. It says, "Hi Perch. Here's a news item that just caught my eye and likely impacts all comics. All of comics. Baker & Taylor, the largest book distributor into libraries, owes publishers money and is being acquired by a company who is only taking the assets and not the debt." We should get into that more another time, but that is a fun move right there. I would guess that Dynamite, Mad Cave, Fantagraphics, Boom, and others with either a Disney license or equivalent high-profile property, Invincible? No, not Invincible, could be having serious deja vu. In addition to the challenges related to the Diamond bankruptcy, they now find themselves owed money from Brooks & Taylor. There's a link to an article which I'll get to in a second. As a worst-case scenario, it helps me see why IPG announced its own entry into the direct market. If it can source and supply 450 items from the jump, including Baki from Japan. Anyway, less a question and more I just want to share in case you haven't seen it yet, Viva La Comics. Yeah, Viva La Comics indeed. So what is this article and what is this guy talking about? So let's check that out. All right, so basically, you have this deal, this company, Brooks & Taylor. And Brooks & Taylor got, I'm going to really paraphrase and I'll do it very poorly. This will be like the fortune cookie version of a company. But anyway, Brooks & Taylor is a large distributor to mass merchandisers, non-bookstore outlets, i.e. libraries, universities, places like that. Basically, they're getting acquired, but the acquisition will take basically the assets in the business, but not the money owed in the business.
Underneath.
And this basically says, again,
is it underneath?
This is highly. You notice, by the way, I hope y'all appreciate when I do videos. When I'm saying something that is dubious, I don't try and just fluff you into this is the truth. I'm telling you right now, I'm giving you a not an inaccurate version, but a very, a very, very high-level version of what's going on. Basically, when you have a company that's acquired for assets, but leaving the debt, the general next step is that the company with the debt just files bankruptcy and flushes it out.
It is. That was tricky. That was good.
It's a deal where somebody got paid on the side. Well, not on the side exactly, but it's a way to kind of structure a company that flushes away the losses and allows it to continue in a new entity. But it does definitely screw the creditors, the people who are looking to get their money. So there's a bunch of publishers who are owed money. By the way, not just by comics, but books and everything. And it is unlikely they're going to be paid in full. It's possible, but it's unlikely. Now, in some areas, when you take away the assets, you just have the debt. There can be loans. There can be other things. Sometimes, that works out. But most of the time, the deal that gets kind of presented is, you're never going to get your money, but we have restructured in a positive way that allows us to sell in the books, and you'll be back to getting paid. nobody loves this, but it's like, imagine you're a publisher and somebody comes to you and goes, yeah, I haven't paid you for the last 6 months. If you like, you can continue to hope for that money, and you're probably never going to get it. But you can continue to ask me for it, and you could continue to harass me for it, but, odds are I'm never going to pay you. Or you just say, bygones be bygones, stop pressuring me, and, you'll be back to being paid every month. Well, a lot of small publishers will take that deal, and they'll write off, the money they're not paid. They don't like it, but they can pass along a little bit of that screwing to the creators and other things. And they basically say, all right, well, at least I'm back on a track to getting paid. I'm not bankrupt today, so if I get paid, my world's only going up from here. And yeah, I'm never going to get that money back, but what are you going to do? If I continue to hold out and push for that cash, strong chance that company will never have the cash, and I won't have the new money either, so I'll be doubly screwed. And that's how a lot of people look at it. Is that dodgy? Yeah. Yeah, that is, it's a hell of a thing. What's quoted here in this news article? Overall, it is a surprise, and there are mixed emotions over this development. Yeah, no shit. Anyway, if you're looking at an analysis of what this means, it is unlikely this is going to have a massive impact to comics. One of the things that was overstated in comics, and it was overstated by a bunch of, frankly, by a bunch of YouTubers, is that libraries were solely responsible for basically saving Marvel and DC and all their woke content, because you had a bunch of lesbian librarians who were buying up just the worst possible shit and basically funding all these companies. So they were basically being super woke because of the librarians. And this is stupid. It was stupid then. It's stupid now. There's no evidence behind this. Zero. Libraries do not, first of all, you don't sell at full cost. There is no resale, so there's no margin involved. You're not like this. It's not a deal where, publishers could survive. If you're Marvel and half your money was coming from libraries to buy your content, it's not a core revenue stream. It's your worst possible revenue stream. Your margin is as close to zero. You're selling under, and then also, how many libraries are there in the country? There's a lot, right? There's a lot. How many comics are libraries buying every month? How many graphic novels? Marvel produces 80 comics a month. Plus,
I don't know, but they have a point. There's a lot of trash in those libraries.
A library may.
No, I've been in there. There's a lot of books nobody fucking reads.
Unlikely, but maybe. How many?
Yeah, not enough of the classics either that are print.
When's the last time you went to a library?
Yeah, there's not enough Harry Potter. There's not enough.
50 copies. Of
I get it. They want to steer people. But yeah, when the majority of graphic novels on the library shelves are written by minorities,
you can actually tell us this.
That's a little funny. No, do you know what I mean? Like, you're telling me someone who's 10% of the population has 80% of the fucking bookshelf? That's not. Come on, guy. No, yeah, they should have room on the shelf.
This was an absurd comment. So the reality
I could argue like, hey, even if that shit doesn't sell, we need to have representation on the shelf.
How bad is this for just publishers who try to find other revenue streams? I mean,
when you go in there and there's none,
shit, and no, it's not good. Like none of this is great.
There's no Alan Moore shit up there. There's no Frank Miller shit up there. There's no Chris Claremont shit up there. There's no.
So how many libraries, by the way, are there in the U.S.? Well, according to ChatGPT, there are 124,000 libraries in the U.S.
Supports a bunch of people.
That's a lot.
I know Piss Core.
But again, let's go back.
This whole shit started when the library picked up his
close
books.
to at cost. The margin
and then the awards
from the library is sub 10%. Okay, 10% of sale for whatever was sold. Much of that gets eaten up just in logistics. All right, so it is not a good revenue stream. I don't know, Perch, but why can we trust you? You could actually go to the annual reports of Disney and Warner, where they list out the nonprofit public institutions and the amount of product going there. There's something called periodicals. You know, you're basically combining things like DC Comics and Mad Magazine and I don't know, whatever the hell else DC Publishing. But anyway, 124,000 libraries. All right, let's say each one of those is buying a copy of Miss Marvel, the graphic novel, that is super woke. It isn't, but let's just say it is. And you're getting a 10% margin. I mean, do I need to spell it out for you? It's piss money.
Friday is company karaoke, 90s pop theme. And well, I'm something of a karaoke connoisseur. What's this? Brad wants a plan to reach a new quarterly target.
You're really gonna make me walk all the way over here.
Trying to throw me off my karaoke
No, this
game.
is what it's about, dude. This right here, what it's about is getting you to move your body. It has nothing to do with selling anything. It has nothing to do with, it's getting you to pay. Pay. I had to pay to skip the annoyance. Like, it has not, it's a fucking manufactured annoyance, dude.
The library
No, it's
sale
crazy,
is not
dude, to make
keeping the
me
company
pay.
afloat, and this is
Gotta
absurd. But it
pay.
was a
I
fun
gotta
thing to say
pay
because
to it.
basically
Yeah,
the
I get
argument
it.
was,
I get it.
hey, I went into a
I
library
didn't
one
build
day.
the
I found a
TV.
super
I
gay
didn't build
book.
the wires.
It clearly is
I'm not
because the
generating
library is
electricity.
trying
I
to
thought
gay
you
your
did it.
kids.
But really?
Therefore, there's a comic book in that library, so the
Hey,
librarians must be picking the gayest possible comic books to have in the library.
everybody's
Is
got to
going to
pay.
gay up everybody.
I get it.
And this is how
Everybody's got to
Marvel is
pay.
staying in business. And there's so many weird
Reality
things
ain't
about
free.
that whole line of thought. Bear in mind. No, this
Everybody's
is
got to
me
move.
saying that like a lot of the trades
Everything's
and
got
things
to move.
produced
Yep.
by the big two publishers that they do try and sell into libraries are good. Well, those comics are terrible. But anyway. Look, the reality is in the publishing business, back to the original one, you've got a lot of really bad deals out there. You have a lot of it's a bad time. If you're in the print resale world, you're not having a great time. It is messy. And yeah, there's not an obvious answer to that at the moment. You've got a bunch of you have a margin low business, meaning the money that people make from reselling this up is small. You have an increasingly shrinking channel. The places where the books are sold is getting smaller and smaller, not bigger. And it's a tough business. You know, printing, supply chain, distribution, all that stuff is tough. The comic book business, the publishing business is not great right now. And you're going to see a lot more stories like this of companies going bankrupt, having to fold. By the way, none of this is me saying, it's no big deal. It honestly isn't a big deal, but it's not good. You know, comic book publishers need every dollar they can get. A channel going this direction doesn't help them. Now, maybe they restructure and they start making more money than ever, but that is unlikely. Anyway, I appreciate the mail because it is a chance to talk kind of about the business and what's true and what's not. And it's a tricky way to go about doing things. But anyway, that's my answer. There you go. Beat it up. I feel like these are the kind of videos where people come in and they like downvote the video and they put in the comments like, yeah, but Perch, it's gay. Do you like? I always want to respond to some of these people. Like, do you hang out in libraries? Like, do you go in libraries, go to the place where all the gay books are, and just hang out there and watch what kids buy them? Because that's weird, bro. Thanks for listening.
Today I have a group of astrophysicists who found the most convincing evidence of unidentified aerial phenomena that I've seen. Concretely, they say they have images of likely artificial objects that were in orbit around Earth before we had the first satellites up there. I've had a look. This research comes from astrophysicists at Nordita in Stockholm, and they just published 2 papers. They used a catalogue of old photographic plates from 1949 to 1957 taken in California at Caltech that have been digitized. Why until 1957? Because in
Actually, not a bad
1957,
card.
the Russians launched the first ever satellite into orbit, or at least the first satellite that we know of. In those scans of old photographic plates, they look for bright spots that appear only briefly, which are called transients. They did this first by computer analysis, but then also by just looking
what's
at
up?
the images. Here is an example of two
What?
images of the exact same spot in the sky taken
All right,
briefly
I'm on my
after
way.
each other. One shows, well, something, the other one not. But these old image scans can contain defects and dust and so on, so they only consider cases where the transients were in the same place in multiple scans of the same photographic plate. Then one can be sure that at least it's not an artifact from this scan. They found a total of 5 such transients, and they aren't single dots. They are configurations of 4, 5, and in one case 6 dots in a row. And one of those with 5 in a row is dated to July 27th, 1952. No, that isn't my birthday. This is the weekend of one of the famous Washington, D.C. UFO days, known as the Washington Flap. On this day, and also a week earlier, air traffic controllers at the city's main airport and a nearby Air Force base said they saw things on radar that shouldn't have been there. Some pilots and people on the ground also reported unusual lights. The fuss was big enough that the Air Force held a press conference on July 29th and blamed atmospheric phenomena.
We can say that the recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any department of the United States.
But back to the astrophysicists with their papers. They also look at all these transients, so not just those that appear in multiple scans. From this, they find that the transients are far less likely to appear in the Earth's shadow. This is statistically significant at 22 sigma. What this means is that the transients are likely to be from something that reflects sunlight, and it makes it unlikely that it's something to do with the camera. If that wasn't already confusing enough, in the other paper, they look at correlations between all transients and reports of unidentified aerial phenomena and nuclear tests. They find a weak correlation with UAP reports, but that transients were 45% more likely within a one-day window around a nuclear bomb test. This pattern is hard to blame on bad film alone. They consider different explanations on the paper, such as foreground objects, but these would be much more blurry, or camera glitches, but these would not disappear in the
Brain not
Earth's
working.
shadow.
Why?
It could have something to do with the nuclear fallout, but again, why would this disappear in the Earth's shadow? Beatrice Villarreal, one of the authors of both papers, told me by email, with my existing limited knowledge, these objects look highly artificial to me. Only something really planar and reflective can give off those transients. Any round or rough body would result in streaks, and I'm thinking mirrors, glass or polymers. But who put them there at those high altitudes? It's open for speculation. It's possible, but it seems highly unlikely to me that any nation had multiple satellites in the sky before the Russian Sputnik launch. This is because it isn't all that easy to launch a rocket without anyone noticing, and you can't do it from anywhere either. It's possible that these objects are of natural origin, but then what are they? Or are they image artifacts that are more likely to occur in sunlight? Maybe something to do with solar wind? I don't have a good explanation, and honestly, I don't have a strong opinion about this one way or the other. I just find it very curious. Even if this is a natural phenomenon, it's very curious. 5 dots in a row? That's very disciplined dust. What do you think about this? Is it aliens? Let me know in the comments. Yes, I do read a lot of news and know that chatbots still aren't any good at writing my scripts, but what does help me a lot is Ground News. Ground News is a news platform that collects and summarizes news which has been published all over the world. Not only do they collect all articles on the same story in one place and give you a quick summary, they also give you a lot of extra information that you don't find in the standard media. A story that recently caught my eye, for example, is this
mathematically
one about
speaking,
how
there
climate
should
change
be,
will make
but
super hot days more likely. You can see immediately
maybe
that
they're
this
just being
basically
super
wasn't
rigorous. I
reported
don't
on the
know.
political right.
Yeah.
Really tells you how echo chambers work, doesn't it? Ground News also gives you a factuality check for each news item, tells you who owns the media outlets and where the news has appeared. Ground News also has this great feature called Blind Spot. This tells
Come
you
on,
which
dude.
news
Come on,
has
dude.
been almost exclusively
Come
covered
on,
only
straighten
by
out the
one
door.
side of
Just
the
one thing
political
after the other.
spectrum. And
Come
of
on.
course, I have a special offer for
Excuse
you.
after the
That's a
other.
40% discount on the
Come on, dude.
Vantage plan, which gives you
Fucking
access
do
to
it.
all their features. All you need to do is use my link ground.news/Sabine or use the QR code. So go and check this out. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
Dude, my mind is literally trying to find reasons to get upset. Wow. No, it
Hit
is,
pause
dude.
on whatever you're listening to and hit play on your next adventure. This fall, get double points on every qualified stay. Life's a trip. Make the most of it at Best Western. Visit bestwestern.com for complete terms and conditions.
Hey, commercial contractors, get 2 months free on Service Titan plus a $1,000 gift card when you sign up in October. Empower your team to make smarter, data-driven decisions from bid to close out. Book your demo at servicetitan.com.
The place is considered in some ways a sacred site, and the sacredness of sites are very unique as far as Ardennes is concerned. We don't have chapels, synagogue, mosque, or temples or anything of that nature. All of the things where we feel spiritual, emotional contact with the holy people are places that we can observe, and we can compare ourselves to how small we really are as children of the holy people, because they make these very large and huge things that we can see and look on and be in awe of all that they have made available to us as their children. Akenas lenegi asaki nadbe ako bijet da hodlodo sai ya di de desna ko enda ka todo zanda anda de ho de ya di kada haus ande go te ako de ya di kade dj andia ako harishi belash la nda de hegi di ko anda ka go di ko da is en de in enda de ako ko has anegi do hanebe da de egi do. We're down here at the place where they call the Horseshoe Bend, and it's right off of Highway 89 that goes to Page. And the city of Page is up the road here to the north of us, just about maybe 4 or 5 miles. But also beyond that, just a little ways to the west, is the Glen Canyon Dam, and also the bridge that goes over the Colorado River. But the Lake Powell is backed up, of course, from the construction of the dam going north into Utah. But here we are in Arizona. And this is a place where our people really lived for many, many generations. And to the south of us, just maybe about 5 miles down the road, or the river actually, there's no roads from here directly to the place called Lee's Ferry. But that was a crossing place where people could cross and do it safely because the water flows in a wide area. And so it's not really like the other areas of the river where they run so much in the narrow areas and that. And so it was a crossing place. But up the river here, about another maybe 10 miles, is the crossing of the Fathers. And the area there is also a place where there's a wide river area. And further up that, of course, is the hole in the rock where the early Mormons back in the 1800s crossed the Colorado. And so there are crossings, but only in specific places. This particular place here at Horseshoe Bend was part of the Navajo Nation at one time. And our people lived here very close. And there are canyons on that actually go down into the river from these various areas. There's a few places right here in this area, and they couldn't get their livestock down there, but they could get water for the animals in some of the springs that are in the location in this area here. But the place is considered in some ways a sacred site, and the sacredness of sites are very unique as far as Ardennes is concerned. We don't have chapels, synagogue, mosque, or temples or anything of that nature. All of the things where we feel spiritual, emotional contact with the holy people are places that we can observe, and we can compare ourselves to how small we really are as children of the holy people, because they make these very large and huge things that we can see and look on and be in awe of all that they have made available to us as their children. And so a lot of times when you go to these sacred sites, you can sit and look around and be able to re-examine your life and contemplate where you are and some of the things you might desire in your life. And there are things that, you know, that people should want. And the wants have to be some things that you need. Just to focus on the things that you want, sometimes very selfish and they have no reward. But to want something that you need and to really make the effort to achieve them is very important. I think our old people understood that, and it was part of the teachings of the knowing of what is important to you, what really matters in making your life. Is what is important, because we make our life. Whatever it is that you do, or the choices you make, are the things that make your life. And so our people always were concerned about the making of an individual life. And the place to kind of contemplate those things were these sites where you kind of appreciate the idea of the holy people making a place available for you to be able to ponder your life, contemplate your life, and plan your life. And so it is the place where you can think, you can plan, you can think of your life, and you can hope, and have hope to be able to have the joy, the happiness, confidence, and peace in that as you journey the beauty way path. And so all these things take in what is beauty, and the beauty is all around us. And a lot of times we put up things and make alterations thinking that they can become more beautiful, but a lot of times we have such an impact that we destroy the beauty. And so behind us is the Horseshoe Bend. And this used to be a time when we used to herd sheep in the area. And all of this was just open, and it was there for us to see as the net. But today it is open to the public, and it has become an attraction. It's a beautiful place, and I have no problem with having people come around by the hundreds of thousands and look down into the canyon where the Colorado River flows, and it almost flows in on itself, and the place known as the Horseshoe Bend. And when we refer to it, we say To'Kenotle, or where the water flows and almost flowing back in on itself. And so the a place that we can take the time to think about our life and to think about ourselves and to be able to think of the things we need in our life so that we can have a pleasant journey on the beauty way path. And those are the things that we are told.
Hey, thanks for watching our videos. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss one of our uploads. Also, head over to our website, NavajoTraditionalTeachings.com. Sign up for our email list. Okay.
Hello, wonderful person, this is Anton, and today I wanted to revisit one of the more mind-bending theories and propositions in cosmology when it comes to black holes and the universe. the possibility that our entire universe, everything we see, every galaxy, every star, you and me of course, might be located inside a very, very massive black hole that's essentially universe-sized. And though it may sound like something out of pure science fiction, or something you might hear in one of these AI slop channels, in cosmology this idea does have an actual name. It's known as black hole cosmology. And it's built on remarkable mathematical coincidence that we're going to be exploring today. And since this idea started trending on YouTube once again, with even famous people like Neil deGrasse Tyson recently covering this on his channel, I figured let's actually jump in and explore some of the evidence we have and come up with some kind of a conclusion whether this can be real and if we actually do live inside a black hole, or if there's evidence for the opposite. And so let's explore some of the supporting evidence and also explore physics that suggests that maybe the universe is not a black hole after all. Well, we know that a black hole is basically a region of space-time where gravity becomes so intense that nothing, not light, not information, can escape it. This is the famous event horizon. And the size of this event horizon, or the so-called Schwarzschild radius, surprisingly depends only on one property, the mass. So theoretically, anything can become a black hole. But more mass means a bigger black hole and a much wider radius. And so this is a direct linear relationship. Now consider the universe. Our observable universe also has a kind of a horizon, the cosmic horizon or the Hubble radius. And this is a distance beyond which light just did not have enough time to reach us yet since the beginning of the universe. And well, this is where we have this very bizarre coincidence. If you do some math and you take the total mass contained within the observable universe, which is basically 1 followed by 54 zeros, or 1 septadecillion kilograms, and then you plug that number into the formula for black holes, the resulting hypothetical black hole is going to be approximately 300 billion light years across. And this calculation suggests that the size and the mass contained in the observable universe seems to fit the criteria for being a black hole. So quite compelling math here. But maybe this is just a coincidence. But I guess let's assume for a second that it's not. So first of all, how would the universe end up inside a black hole? Well, the idea here is that the universe was probably born on the outside of the black hole, inside some kind of a parent universe, which of course can also be another black hole. And so here, in classical physics and especially in the Einsteinian general relativity, any object collapsing under gravity must eventually reach singularity, a point of infinite density, where all known physics break down. This of course includes the Big Bang itself, which starts from some kind of a singularity. But quite a few scientists, including those working on black hole cosmology, propose that singularities are not real and cannot possibly exist. And so instead of an endless collapse into a singularity, what if matter, once it reaches extreme density, stops collapsing and instead undergoes a kind of a bounce, resulting in a very rapid expansion? And well, the thing is, if you do the math here as well, this rebounding surprisingly seems to resemble very similar calculations to the idea behind Big Bang. The universe expands very fast, and here we don't need any points of infinite density. And so this mechanism provides an explanation for the origin of inertia, and this origin is some kind of a parent black hole. But from our side, it would resemble a primordial white hole, which is what Big Bang would be. And so just to rephrase this, in this parent universe, you would see a lot of mass collapsing into what resembles a black hole, but inside of this black hole, we essentially see the opposite. We see a massive white hole expanding, which results in a massive expansion that then creates our universe. And so instead of achieving singularity, we basically get a new universe inside the black hole's event horizon, with each black hole creating a new baby universe inside, and that in some sense represents the Einstein-Rosen bridge, or a wormhole. And assuming this is correct, and knowing what we know about black holes, if the parent black hole was rotating, for example, it's quite likely that it's going to impart certain properties, such as angular momentum, on some of the massive objects, including some of the galaxies, existing inside this baby universe. So basically, our universe would inherit some kind of a axis of rotation. This will become important in a few minutes, because we're going to talk about one of the recent discoveries. And so interestingly, quite a few different studies in the last few years try to explore this from not just some kind of a hypothetical proposition, but really try to find physical evidence. For example, one of the modern propositions from the black hole universe theories suggests that a lot of this seems to be driven by a purely relativistic effect combined with some of the key principles of quantum mechanics, specifically the Pauli exclusion principle, named after the famous Wolfgang Pauli. And the idea here is that a lot of particles known as fermions cannot possibly occupy the same space and the same energy, or to be more specific, the same quantum state. And so things like electrons and neutrons have to exist separately from each other. But at extremely high densities, this rule starts to generate a very powerful resistance referred to as degeneracy pressure. We know this exists because white dwarfs exist. The main reason why white dwarfs do not collapse anymore is because a lot of particles, specifically electrons inside of them, cannot get squeezed anymore. And so it's this degeneracy pressure that in a lot of these models completely stops the collapse of matter, preventing singularity from forming, and then initiating a gravitational bounce that then produces a new universe. And once again, surprisingly, if you crunch the numbers, this bounce surprisingly resembles a very famous idea known as the inflation period. This is an extremely short period that happened right after the Big Bang, and it explains quite a lot of different observations from the universe. And so just to rephrase this, there are quite a lot of parallels between the propositions from the black hole cosmology and from the modern explanations involving the Big Bang theory, with many of these mechanisms explaining the cosmic acceleration and the collapsing and expanding processes. But more importantly, the model also makes some testable predictions, and specifically, once again, in regards to cosmic rotation. If the universe is a black hole, it probably also rotates, mostly because all black holes rotate as well. And this rotation should also be visible as a type of an angular momentum in a lot of galactic structures and even in galaxies themselves. And so a lot of galaxies will usually align their spins with a kind of a preferred axis of rotation to minimize energy. And so here this would result in a very specific asymmetry in spin direction. And surprisingly, in the last years, some evidence for this has been observed.
So yeah, the only problem with those incels is that they're
For example, there was a discovery
involuntarily
that
doing
certain
it.
spiral
They
galaxies
would just
seem to
become
show
Catholics.
asymmetry in clockwise
All of a sudden
counterclockwise
it's not
spins, with most
involuntary.
galaxies preferring a certain rotation. So
We
basically,
shouldn't be
galaxies
doing
rotating in the same way to the Milky Way was surprisingly higher compared to galaxies rotating in the opposite direction. And this kind of a non-random distribution of rotation of galaxies is exactly what you would expect if the universe was rotating, which may be the result of this being a massive black hole. Likewise, something similar in regards to rotation and alignment was also observed when looking at distant quasars. Many different quasars seem to align in the same way and do seem to contain somewhat similar rotation as well. And so could this be that evidence we require to prove that we basically live inside a black hole? Well, here we obviously have to discuss the counter evidence, but first let's answer a very simple question.
It was actually kind of
Why
fun,
does
dude.
none of this matter? Well, for cosmology, this would be really
It's got to
important
be because the
it does
environments are
address
varied. It's a
several
20-year-old
unresolved
game, but
challenges
like I
in
had
the
my
standard Big
jetpack,
Bang model. For
and
example,
I
it
had a
obviously
map,
addresses
so
the singularity problem.
it was
That is because we
halfway
have no
enjoyable.
idea what happened right
But
at the
still,
beginning.
dude, I hate
The
collecting
first
books.
tiny fraction of a second when
That
the universe
stupid
began is a
shit,
complete
man.
mystery to us. And the current model assumes that this was a singularity, something with infinite density, and something that in physics does not make sense. Then we also have the problem of inflation.
It wasn't
The evidence
bad
for
in the same
inflation
way.
is
Yeah, you had to
definitely
look,
very
even
strong,
if with
but
the
we
map,
don't
you
really
had to
have a
look
good
for it a
explanation.
little bit. It
And
might
so
be
we
under
don't really know
something,
why the universe
you
expanded in
know.
size so
Like the
dramatically
very
and so
last
quick
one I
in that
got,
first fraction
man,
of a
I kept
second.
looking,
Most explanations
and then
involve
I noticed there
hypothetical
was a
fields and
railroad
particles
tunnel
that have never been
underneath me.
proven, but in the black hole
And yeah, I
cosmology,
had to
we
find
do
the
have an
entrance to the
elegant
railroad
solution that
tunnel,
requires
walk
nothing new.
underneath there, and yeah,
Likewise,
it
this
was
would also
underground. It
explain
was,
dark energy.
so yeah, I
Because
was
the
like,
black
you
hole is
bastard.
spinning and the universe is spinning as well, it produces centrifugal force that makes the universe expand even more. And surprisingly, this might also solve the Hubble tension problem, or explain why dark energy seems to be weakening over time. So once again, another elegant solution. And so the overall takeaway here is that if black hole cosmology is correct, it might be able to solve a lot of problems all at once. So basically, it's easier to explain many different observations if we do live inside a really large black hole. But this is where we have to discuss the
How the
counter
fuck
evidence.
could we be
Despite
inside
these
a black
compelling
hole,
coincidences,
Joseph?
and despite this somewhat elegant solution,
No, that's
most
a new
conventional
thing they're
cosmological
talking about. Like,
observations still
really,
actually
like,
suggest that the universe
you
is
know,
not a
theory.
black hole, and we do not seem to live inside one either. And the evidence here is maybe even
I need to
stronger. And the
re-listen to
first
this.
explanation
Yeah.
here is in regards to what's known as isotropy. Our universe, on the largest scales, appears to be isotropic. In cosmology, this just means that it looks and acts in the same way in every single direction. It basically equally expands in all three spatial dimensions, and even has the same temperature and same properties.
Alright,
All
what
of this
time
is
is my
based on very
girlfriend home,
accurate
dude?
observations of the earliest light in the universe, known as the CMB, or the cosmic microwave background.
Why are we
And
screaming?
this has a name. It's known as the cosmological principle. So basically we expect the universe to kind of be the same no matter where you go. But a black hole is mathematically anisotropic. Or basically, it's not the same everywhere. And that's because inside a black hole, at least when it comes to math, space is severely distorted and is usually stretched in one direction and squeezed in the two other directions. This is, for example, why stars get spaghettified when they get too close to black holes. And so, at least mathematically, if this was a black hole, we would expect certain gravitational distortions and certain types of stretching and squeezing in certain parts. But based on modern observations, we don't seem to see anything like this anywhere. Our universe simply does not show any kind of highly directional anisotropic expansion. And the second problem is once again density. Now, in the beginning of the video, I mentioned that the calculations for the universe seem to match the calculation for the mass of a black hole with a very specific size. And this calculation is based on the idea that the universe is finite, or basically has a very specific size, which in this case would be that Schwarzschild radius for a black hole. And so because the universe is finite, this would also imply that the density should drop suddenly at the cosmic horizon, and that the size of the universe itself, the Hubble radius, also represents the black hole limit line. But this type of an analysis is based on two specific assumptions, or basically two possibilities. First possibility is that the density outside the black hole, or outside the universe, would supposedly drop to zero, becoming completely empty space. With the second possibility being that the density outside is the same as the density inside. So basically there's just no other option. Both of these would be a problem. If the density drops suddenly, this would be extremely difficult to explain with modern physics and would actually make no sense at all in any of the modern theories. But if the density is continuous and does not drop, the necessary mathematics that define the black hole boundary, or the Schwarzschild radius, completely break down as well. And so under these conditions, it essentially makes it impossible, at least in terms of math, to be inside any kind of a black hole. And so even though the idea does create some elegant explanations, it also creates some major problems for modern physics, and certain problems that do not actually match the evidence. Although here you might be asking one question. Okay, so what about that evidence of rotating universe? What about the evidence coming from the quasars and the evidence from these rotating galaxies? Well, as I've discussed in the videos in the description, both of these actually have a much better explanation that does not require a black hole or even a rotating universe at all. Because both of these observations can also be explained if what we're looking at is the mysterious cosmic web, the enormous web of matter and various galaxies that seems to form the entire universe, where many galaxies are sort of guided and sort of pushed around by the flow of matter inside the web itself. And so by being inside of this web, many of these quasars and many of these galaxies are actually just naturally going to assume certain rotation in the same way that I guess you would expect different particles to behave the same way if they're flowing down the river. And while the evidence for cosmic web is pretty strong, scientists have even detected it physically in some of the recent studies. As a matter of fact, this explanation is much more accurate, because for the rotating universe explanation, we should also be seeing a lot of other signs, such as for example signs inside the cosmic microwave background, which have never been seen before and are currently not visible to any of the telescopes. Okay, having said all this, so what's the possible conclusion? Well, the idea that our universe is inside a massive black hole is definitely captivating. It's based on a compelling mathematical picture, and it does address certain cosmic mysteries and provides certain elegant solutions. But in cosmology, usually, a factual approach is a lot more important, because based on a lot of previous experience, we know that elegant solutions are not always correct. And so based on some of the most fundamental observational facts and some of the most accurate observations, we know that the universe seems to be smooth, it seems to be isotropic, it does not seem to spin, and also does not seem to have a sudden shift of density on the edge of the universe, which suggests that it's unlikely to be a black hole, and the effects we're observing seem to be the result of something entirely different, and specifically seem to be the result of the structure of the universe itself. And so as of late 2025, there is a lot more evidence for the universe just being the universe. we're most likely not living inside a supermassive black hole, and there's unlikely to be another parent universe somewhere out there. But either way, exploring these concepts is still important because it pushes us much closer in trying to solve a lot of these really complex problems and in trying to find the ultimate theory of them all, the unified theory of quantum gravity. Now, scientists are not there yet, and there are still a lot of problems to be solved, but it's really these concepts, these observations, and these propositions that step by step are taking us closer to finally understanding everything out there. And so, at least for now, that's kind of all I wanted to mention. So, what do you think? Do you think we're inside a black hole? Anyway, as always, thank you for watching. We'll definitely come back and discuss this more in some of the future videos. But until then, I'll see you tomorrow. Stay wonderful. Maybe subscribe. Maybe share this video with someone who loves learning about space and sciences. And support this channel on Patreon, where you can find additional videos without any ads, and can DM me directly, or by joining the channel membership that grants you early access and a few secret videos. Additionally, you can also buy the Wonderful Person t-shirt in the description below. Stay wonderful. I'll see you tomorrow. And as always, bye-bye.
Huggies Double Grip.
Africa's history, few
With respect, sir.
Catch you later, Daddy-O!
Don't hate the little man because he's packing a six-shooter. Oh, next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you know how much balls it takes to stand down here and sing a song like that? It takes guts.
I'm sorry. We're just looking for something with a little more mass appeal.
What could have more mass appeal than a song like Small but Perfectly Formed? Women want me. Men want to be like me. Assholes.
Oh.
Gotta be kidding me, right?
Damn. This casino game is hard work. I thought it was just a case of opening the doors and letting suckers give you their money.
If only.
You know what? I'm getting bored here. I'm trying to do business, not audition midgets.
People of reduced stature, you mean?
Yeah, I said that. All I know is when are we gonna get some real talent in here?
I heard that. Mad Dog.
CJ. Clean, dude.
That's good news, man. Hey, what's cracking? You ready to take it to the stage again?
Easy, CJ. Come on, man. One step at a time, you know? I'm almost ready, but...
But what?
I want to go home now, CJ.
That's cool, man. I'll take you. Where's home?
My mansion, baby.
Yeah, I heard about that place. Drugs, sex, all that shit.
Yeah, you know it.
Yeah, I've been there. I mean, I've seen it on TV.
Yeah.
Nice crib.
Thanks, player.
We could do with a place like that to set up in the LS again. Wait for Sweet. Get things moving. Get out this midget game.
But CJ, come on, man.
What? I saved your life, man.
My mansion ain't big enough. Only got 19 bedrooms, you heard? All right, man. My mansion's been seized.
IRS?
Nah, not exactly.
Who?
Nobody.
Who, Mad Dog?
All right, Big Papa.
Big Papa? The drug dealer? Man, you gave your multi-million-dollar mansion to a motherfucking pusher?
You know, CJ, these things happen. I was powerless.
You fucking degenerate? Oh, man. How much blow can one guy snort?
It's not my fault, CJ.
Man, I should have let you jump. Come with me, all of you. We all going home. Hello?
Hey, what's up, Carl?
Hey, Kendall, what's up?
Nothing, just thought I'd wish you luck. We're gonna drive back to San Fierro first. Want to check things out there before we hook up with you guys in Los Santos.
All right, cool. You be careful.
I'll be fine. I got Caesar and Mad Dog to keep me safe. You be careful.
Oh, I will. I'll see you in Los Santos. Me and you gonna go in to clear the place out.
Good idea. The element of surprise.
So the rest of the crew can move in peace.
You ever jumped before?
Nah, you?
Nah.
When we land, we're gonna feel invincible.
I am invincible!
Hey, wait up!
Wahoo! Woohoo!
God dang, wow, bro. Yeah, that's sorry. I got a thing that won't go. Wow. That was a little wicked, seemed like.
You gonna stay cool now. You enjoying yourself? Huh?
Oh, dude. That was.
You wanna get blasted, fool?
Respond to a 1037 in southwest Mulholland. Suspect last
Oh,
seen by
dude.
foot.
Wow, dude. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'd go to the airport, I guess. Best way here. Okay. We'll walk. Yes, let's go down to the airport, right? Fly back. It's all the way down here. We got this. All right. Let's do this.
Much fear and In South Africa's history, few names spark as much fear and concern as Gert van Rooyen, a former police officer turned. Van Rooyen became infamous in the late 1980s and early 1990s for committing a string of disturbing child abductions that left families shattered and a nation horrified. Alongside his partner, Joey Harhoff, he lured young girls with promises of gifts and opportunities, only for the young children to then vanish without a trace. But beneath the surface of these disappearances lies an even darker,
Let's see. Come on, dude. You
allegations of ritualistic
everyone. Gotta watch out your left side, dude. They always turn from your left side.
Suspicions of organized networks of
all the way over.
Turned Gert van Rooyen's
from the left lane. You gotta watch that left lane over here, dude. They always go like that. They always cross lanes when they turn. Completely illegal when nobody does, but it's okay. They do it all the fucking time.
Leaving behind unanswered questions that still haunt South Africa today. In today's episode, we're going to unravel the chilling story of Gert van Rooyen and examine his crimes, his connections to powerful political figures, and the disturbing allegations of murder and satanic rituals that continue to cloud his legacy and fuel speculation to this day. I'm Colin Brown, and welcome to the Conspiracy Files. As a quick statement before we get in here, all parties are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. All the opinions presented on today's show are solely mine. If you want to research this story yourself, check out the resources document posted in the description of the show. This is a very disturbing story and a very disturbing episode, so viewer and listener discretion is heavily advised. And as with all of these cases, these things, they sound like they're too twisted to be real. And I'm not pegging any sort of group of individuals as all being bad people. I fully believe that the satanic panic was completely overblown. There were a ton of people that were accused of doing things that they didn't do. Rock and roll music, heavy metal music, Dungeons and Dragons was all targeted during the satanic panic. I mean, I've done a pretty good job of thoroughly examining so many of these cases. I cannot believe that there are still groups out there that say that there's no evidence that there was ever a recorded case of satanic ritual. I've covered a bunch of them on this show. I've spoken with multiple victims for upcoming projects who suffered at the hands of people that were carrying out satanic ritual or SRA on them, sometimes even their own parents or grandparents. But yeah, let's just get into it. To understand the crimes of Gert van Rooyen, we need to go back to the beginning. Gert Cornelius van Rooyen was born on April 11th, 1938 in South Africa, growing up in a conservative Afrikaans household during a time of deep social and political division in the country. Accounts of Gert's childhood paint a complex picture. On the surface, he was an ordinary boy, quiet, disciplined, and raised with strict values. But behind closed doors, some reports suggest he was deeply troubled from a young age, displaying signs of manipulation and cruelty that would later become defining traits of his twisted personality. As a young man, Van Rooyen sought structure and authority, something he found in the South African police force. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, he began his career as a police officer, and the job gave him both status and power in a society where law enforcement carried immense authority. Keep in mind, this is back during apartheid, when police officers were elevated to an almost godlike status, especially when dealing with, certain groups or minorities, or I guess majorities that were being repressed and oppressed by those bigger, more powerful groups. But being a police officer also exposed Gert to a darker side of humanity and perhaps helped give him the tools and confidence that he would later use for far more sinister purposes. Now, colleagues have described Van Rooyen as being an ambitious man, but a deeply unsettling one. They said he was someone who followed orders, but never seemed to fully fit in. His time in the police force was relatively short-lived, and he eventually left law enforcement under murky circumstances. What followed was a steady decline into a life of serious crimes. Now, Gert's departure marked the beginning of a downward spiral for him. Over the years that followed, Gert drifted between business ventures, personal relationships, and brushes with the law. He developed a reputation for being controlling, secretive, and increasingly unstable. What began as minor misconduct would eventually escalate into acts of extreme violence and horror. But it was those formative years, his strict upbringing, his attraction to authority and his short career in the police that laid the foundation for the man he would later become, a predator who used trust, charm, and power as his weapons. Now, Gert van Rooyen first turned to business as a way of keeping up appearances. He dabbled in ventures ranging from small construction projects to supposed investment opportunities, but
Don't hate the little man.
You ever jumped before?
Nah, you?
Nah.
When we land, we're gonna feel invincible.
I am invincible!
Hey, wait up!
Wahoo! Woohoo!
Again, something annoying. I know, just a coincidence, bro. Yeah, what the fuck? Okay, okay. Bullet's not working. It's alright. It's alright.
Hey, pay a nigga.
Get away from me!
Fuckhead!
We're heavily outnumbered, but if we all keep our heads, we should kick ass.
Bastards! Let's hit them! Sorry.
Die, motherfuckers! None of you are leaving this house alive!
Teach you, clear the corridor and we'll clear each room.
You lost the wheel, did yet?
This one's clear!
bitch. Who are you to break into this place, eh?
Clear. Mutton chops.
All you fools are gonna die!
No one left in here. Fuckhead. Room clear.
Ain't nobody gonna hear from you again!
This room's clean. You go ahead, CJ. We'll hold the balcony. Fuckhead.
Huh?
You chose the wrong house to rob, fool! You don't know who you're fucking with, do you? You trying to fuck with my house? With my shit?
There's no way you can outrun me.
You lost the...
I'ma fuck with you!
Dude. I can't, my brain.
You new to this driving thing?
Why my oil? Get the hell out of my face.
Hey, Ken, how you doing?
Who is this?
It's Carl. Carl Johnson.
Hey, Carl, great! Guys, it's Carl, great! Fucking great, fucking amazing.
I got a need for an accountant and a sound engineer, and I thought of you and Paul.
Fucking amazing. Paul's great with figures, and I'd make a fucking amazing producer. This is fucking great, it's amazing.
Yeah, whatever you say, man, but look, see you soon.
Fucking amazing.
Instead of building an honest career, he used charm and manipulation to con others, engaging in fraudulent schemes that left victims out of money and trust. These scams landed Gert in court more than once, establishing a criminal record for him that would shadow him for the remainder of his life. But obviously, financial fraud wasn't Gert van Rooyen's only crime. More disturbing patterns slowly began to emerge over time. By the 1970s, Van Rooyen had been convicted of against minors, including during an incident where he lured 2 young girls under false pretenses and then physically and Now, Gert van Rooyen served time in prison, but not long enough to prevent him from returning to society with even darker intentions. And keep that in mind. You lure in 2 children, you physically and you serve a short prison sentence. To this day, in some countries like Canada and England, and a lot of European countries, even here in America for certain people, we don't treat crimes against children with enough severity. We don't give high enough sentences or serve harsh enough consequences. It's a lot of times a slap on the wrist, and then these people are allowed back into society, and they reoffend and reoffend and reoffend, and it's deeply disturbing stuff. And I know that I've talked about this so many times on the channel. Some people are sick of it, but this is my passion, exposing these people and telling these stories that are largely forgotten to history. I mean, I know for a fact almost none of you, maybe some South African viewers of the show, but almost none of you have heard of Gert van Rooyen. I can't remember where I came across his name. I think it was in a book I was reading. But these are just stories that are purposefully forgotten, stories that are purposefully shoved under the rug so that we don't keep talking about them. Because as we're seeing play out with Epstein, so many world leaders and powerful individuals from all different industries have their hands in these disgusting pies. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if power corrupts or if people that get to that power are just corrupt and then the power allows them to do what they want. I don't know exactly what it is. Also, if you want to listen to this uncensored, join the Patreon, because I know this one's going to have to be heavily censored. And I apologize for that. It is not my intention to try make more money or do this and that or to try and get people to sign up for Patreon. It's simply because if this was fully uncensored, uncensored, I would not only be demonetized, but I've had videos removed and age restricted, so we want to avoid that here on YouTube. Now, keep in mind, Gert Van Rooyen was convicted of and physically those two little girls, but he was let out of prison. And despite those previous convictions, Gert maintained the look of normalcy to those who didn't really know who he was. Gert married, he had children of his own, and outwardly he lived as a businessman and a family man. Yet behind this disguise, his relationships were turbulent, marked by control and psychological manipulation. He cycled through marriages and divorces and left behind him a trail of broken families. These early offenses reveal a clear trajectory for Gert's life. A man who once sought respect through the police uniform now sought power in far more threatening and disturbing ways. The same skills he had learned in law enforcement, like gaining trust, projecting authority, and exploiting vulnerability, were used later on for his predatory lifestyle. And as time went on, his crimes only grew more calculated, more disturbing, and far more dangerous. Now, when most people talk about Gert Van Rooyen, one name always follows close behind: Joey Horroff. Their meeting was the turning point for when Gert's dark fantasies found an accomplice who not only understood them, but also encouraged them. Gert Van Rooyen first crossed paths with Joey Horroff in the mid-1980s. At that time, Joey was a divorced former Sunday school teacher. Joey met Gert in Pretoria, the capital of South Africa, when the two were introduced through social circles connected to the churches she sometimes attended. In Pretoria, she was remembered as a bit of an oddball, a little bit strange. Some neighbors found her friendly, while others thought she had an eerie aura to her. She was a little unsettling. She wasn't someone who blended in easily, I'll just say that. But when Gert and Joey met, their connection was instant, and the relationship moved quickly. Joey was drawn to Gert's intensity and the way he spoke with authority, and Gert, for his part, recognized Joey's desire to be led and her clingy tendencies, which, in his mind, made her extremely easy to influence. But there was something darker at play, too. Early on in the relationship, Gert Van Rooyen tested Joey's boundaries, revealing the contours of his fantasies and desires that would repulse most people. But instead of recoiling, Joey leaned in. She not only accepted Gert's twisted worldview and his disturbing desires, but she even began to mirror it and even strengthen them. What might have remained Gert's hidden fantasies became reality when he was paired with Joey's willingness to act and carry them out. And together, the two of them became something neither of them ever could have been alone. By 1988, they were inseparable. They lived together, worked together, and, crucially, began planning together. When seeing photos of them together, they look like your typical older, sweet couple who you'd see at church on Sundays or at the local diner down the road. But unfortunately, the two of them were anything but sweet. From 1988 to 1990, Gert and Joey went on a and potentially murder spree. Gert would use Joey to lure young girls on his behalf. She would appear soft and kind to disarm the children, and disturbingly, children's homes later reported that Joey frequently called their facilities, requesting to take girls home for weekends or holidays to give them some love and a temporary home. Although Gert and Joey applied to host foster children, their application thankfully was rejected. But despite all of this, at the end of 1989, a 14-year-old girl from an Orange Free State orphanage spent Christmas in the Van Rooyen house. While this teenage girl's
God, that was annoying.
Unknown, her case
That
is
was annoying, dude.
because it
We'll
marks
slow
the first
down.
known
Yeah,
instance of Gert and Joey
maybe it
taking
was.
a kid into their
Wow.
house.
Okay,
The
so it is
pattern
annoying.
began on August 1st, 1988, when 14-year-old Tracy Lee Scott Crossley from Randburg near Johannesburg disappeared.
Okay, let's go.
Witnesses saw
Go
her
get him.
enter a
Go get him,
Volkswagen
dude. Go
Beetle
get him.
outside
Let's
a
go blow him
shopping mall in Cresta,
Let's go.
only
The
to
other
be
way. This
never
way.
seen again. Her disappearance prompted a
Back it up.
nationwide police search
There
and
you go.
a poster campaign. Tracy Lee's brother, Mark, who had declined to accompany her that day, was left traumatized and felt
we
guilty
catch him?
for not going with her that afternoon to the mall. Then, 4 months later, on December 22nd, 1988, 12-year-old Fiona Harvey of Pietermaritzburg went missing. Investigators later connected her disappearance to Gert when a white Ford Bantam pickup truck involved in the abduction was found displaying an advertisement for Gert's building contracting business, which he operated out of his home. On June 7th, 1989, 12-year-old Joan Horn of Pretoria vanished. And 1 month later, 16-year-old Janet Delport from Durban was abducted from a shopping mall by a blonde woman later believed to have been Joey Horroff. She was later found wandering, distressed but unharmed. Then, a few weeks later, young 9-year-old Rosa Peel of Alberton vanished off the face of the earth. But it continued. September 22nd, 1989, 11-year-old Odette Boucher and 12-year-old Anne-Marie Wapinar, both from Kempton Park.
Oh, he got out. He got out. Where'd he
Just
go?
a week later, Anne-Marie's mother received a letter claiming that her daughter and Odette had run away to Durban with a couple of boys. Investigators suspect that the letters were written under duress and used as an attempt to prevent her family from assuming the worst. Then, on November 3rd, 1989, 13-year-old Yolanda Wessels, Joey's own niece, disappeared. It was clear that there was something horrific lurking around these communities, but nobody knew exactly what was going on. No one knew where the young girls were going to. No one knew who was taking the young girls. But with a lot of these young girls, their parents and community members didn't even know that they had been taken. Some assumed they had just run away, vanished, gone to live with friends or another family member, or just left the home and didn't look back. On January 11th, 1990, a 16-year-old girl from Pretoria named Joan Boysen was targeted by Gert and Joey, but she escaped, an event that changed the course of everything. Now, at the time, Joan was approached by the couple in Church Square, Pretoria, and offered a babysitting job for the family, a tactic that they sometimes used to lure in young girls. Gert was there with Joey, and the two of them looked incredibly harmless, and so Joan accepted the opportunity and agreed to come over to their house to babysit. She then got into their car and was driven to their home. However, upon arrival, things quickly went south, and Joan was handcuffed.
Come on, guys. Come on, guys. That was pretty blatant.
While Joan was
Blatantly
inside
timed
the
with the
home,
player.
she found some bizarre items like handcuffs, syringes, and chloroform bottles. Now, Joan was luckily able to escape at some point and immediately went to the police and reported to the South African police exactly what happened at Gert and Joey's house. And thankfully, unlike in some locations, they listened. The police then set up surveillance on the fenced-in home for 4 days and later identified Gert when he drove past his house in a white Ford pickup truck that matched the description of a vehicle used in one of the abductions. Less than a week later, during a police chase, Gert Van Rooyen killed Joey Horoff and then self-deleted in a murder self-deletion while the police officers watched. That's right, Joey and Gert were cornered. They were at the end of the line. Everything was catching up to them. They had led the police on a chase, and that's when Gert turned the gun on what was the love of his life, pulled the trigger, and then did the same to himself. The police almost were going to crack one of the biggest cases in South African history. Their answers were just a few feet in front of them, but then those answers were taken to the grave with both suspects. After their death, the police opened a full investigation into the couple. Their residence, located at 227 Mallerby Street in Capitol Park, was later searched and was then in the press referred to as the House of Horrors. Investigators discovered inside of the house several items that linked the couple to their victims. For example, a piece of paper with Odette Boucher's home address and phone number were found hidden under a carpet in the garage. Additionally, her class captain's badge and yellow bag were recovered from the premises. Anne-Marie Wapinar's address, home keys, and the envelopes and papers she had used to write to her parents were also found inside of the home. Further investigations continued years later, and in 1996, the authorities decided to, interestingly, demolish the house in order to facilitate a more thorough search. They scanned the walls with sonar equipment, shifted through soil in the garden, and removed the roof to examine the structure. While some bones were uncovered, forensic analysis confirmed they weren't human. Despite these efforts, the fates of the victims remained unknown, which left families without closure and the public with lingering questions about whether Gert Van Rooyen and Joey Horoff's crimes may have extended beyond South Africa's borders. Now, there's proof that some of these missing girls were inside the house because their personal items were found, but that's primarily it. There was never any actual DNA, hair, blood, or evidence of any of these girls' bodies found at the crime scene. So, where the hell are these girls, and what happened to them? And this is where it gets a little bit bizarre. In June of 1990, a customer at the Fabric Library in Midrand discovered a written note hidden among the store's slips. The note, written in a child's handwriting, read, "I am Anne-Marie. My friend and I are with our kidnappers at address. My friend has tried to phone, but was cut off." The address was later traced to a location in Johannesburg, but it wasn't Gert and Joey's house. Anne-Marie Wapinar had been missing since September of 1989, along with her friend Odette Boucher. The note's discovery reignited hope amongst their families that the girls might actually still be alive. Former Fabric Library personal assistant Deborah Sloan recalled a girl of about 12 years old with short black hair who appeared very scared shortly before the note was found. Sloan had wondered at the time why the girl inside of the library had looked so frightened. Handwriting experts later confirmed that the note was indeed written by Anne Marie. However, police investigations at the address that Anne Marie wrote down in that note provided no evidence or answers. Despite this, though, the note remains the only piece of evidence suggesting that Anne Marie and Odette were alive months after their kidnappers' deaths. And this brings up a lot of questions. Now, if these two girls weren't being held captive by Gert Van Rooyen and Joey Horoff, then who were they with? Had they been given to someone else? Had they been sold to someone else? What was going on? Well, in 2007, a significant discovery was made near Gert Van Rooyen's former residence in
Go on. Come on.
Blast my mask up, test you back. Donuts and beef well.
Come
You please leave yourself alone.
Come here. Come on. Oh, fuck.
Oh, you mongrel.
Oh, sorry.
You shouldn't be choking the gecko in the first place. Remember what happened at that gig in
That's my
Hamburg?
dog. That groupie loved it.
That wasn't a groupie, that was a roadie.
But she had great tits.
Man tits. They were man tits.
Hey, what happened? Hey, what the sound's that?
I don't know, bruv. It all just went.
You fucking shite, you RP.
I can't be held responsible for dodgy gear, all right?
Come on, keep it together, man. You can't fuck with us, Flo.
Finally, I thought I'd never get through to you.
What the?
What's
Torino,
this?
is that you?
What's happening here?
Torino?
Listen, you gotta pull one last string.
Hold up,
for
mate.
me,
Look,
okay?
hold up 1 second.
Communists at the gate, Carl.
I'm tired of this, Torino.
I'm outside. Let's take a ride.
Now I'm hearing things. Fuck me. Hey, I gotta get out of here. You got this? Hey, dog, I gotta go hit a marketing meeting. I'm gonna catch you later.
Right, mine, there you go, sunshine.
My heart.
Yeah, sweet as. Come on, you having that, Macca? You having that? I'ma die in the eye of the storm. That's my destiny.
Well, no invite to the housewarming, huh, kid?
I knew you'd come anyway.
Yeah, well, that's not important right now. I'll bring you up to speed on the way. Get in.
How long is this gonna take? I got my own shit to worry about.
Would you like to see your brother this week?
Yeah, what can I do?
You just gotta steal a military jet off an amphibious assault ship and use it to destroy a flotilla of spy ships. Nothing big.
Oh, man, you shitting.
Would I shit you, Carl? There's a boat. All the gear you'll need is on board. I'll keep you briefed as you go.
I ain't coming back from this one, am I?
Yes, you are. Don't be ridiculous. Here, take this earpiece. Trust me, do as I say. You'll be home for a blowjob and a bologna sandwich.
Okay, Carl. The ship is moored in the Easter Basin Naval Base. Sneak in the back without being seen. Once you're on the inside, I cannot help you.
Well, can you help me now?
Well, no. Actually, no.
Come on, dude. Out of the car. Out of the... Thank you. It just gets spotted. Oh,
Bullshit! City tattoo artist just plain suck.
Why would you? Huh. I don't know. Why would you run all the way to the other side? Open the door.
Ah, gee.
Capitol Park, Pretoria, a discovery that raised renewed concerns about the fate of he and Joey's victims. While installing a swimming pool on a neighboring property, workers unearthed human bones, including a jawbone, an iliac bone, and 3 teeth. The bones were found in close proximity to what would have been Gert Van Rooyen's house, which, remember, had been demolished years earlier during an investigation into the disappearances of those several young girls that were linked to him. Amongst the unearthed items were a green dress, black tights, and a brass ring. Forensic scientist David Klatzow, who joined the investigation, noted that some of the bones exhibited saw marks, suggesting they may have been deliberately severed. He also pointed out that the bones appeared to have belonged to a young teenager as opposed to an adult. The discovery reignited public interest in the case, with many speculating that the remains could belong to one of Van Rooyen's missing victims. However, subsequent DNA testing did not result in any positive identification, and to this day, they still don't know who those bones belong to. It's an unidentified teenage girl's assorted body parts. Private investigator at the time, Henny Els, stated that there wasn't a proper missing persons bureau in South Africa at the time, and the police stations in the country didn't really coordinate with one another, so trying to solve that case was like searching for a needle in a haystack. There wasn't any proper database that they could look through, there was no DNA to compare it against, it was just kind of literally searching through a haystack for a needle. So now you have an unidentified teenage girl's remains found near Gert Van Rooyen's former property, but things just continue to get darker from here. Gert Van Rooyen and Joey Haroff had been under investigation for the abduction and of young girls, yet the extent of their crimes remained shrouded in mystery, which over the years has left the public with unanswered questions and sensational speculation. After all, these girls went missing around the same time and were linked to the couple, but still to this day, nobody knows exactly what happened to them or where they are. Not a single trace of them, dead or alive, has ever been found. At the time, the police also considered the possibility that Gert Van Rooyen and Joey Haroff were involved in some sort of satanic cult practices. According to news reports at the time, the authorities initially theorized that the girls may have been killed as a part of some sort of bizarre series of rituals. The authorities at the time even consulted occult expert Superintendent Cobus Jonker, who stated that there was no proof that ceremonies had taken place at the house. He didn't entirely rule out the possibility that Gert Van Rooyen could have been a practicing satanic priest, though, and if so, he stated he could have appeared to live an ordinary life while conducting darker rituals elsewhere. After all, we know several of the missing girls' belongings were found inside the house, but not a trace of any crime was ever discovered. No blood, no DNA, no body parts, no hair, nothing of the sort. What they did find were items involving kidnapping, holding, and what seemed to be the transportation of people. Handcuffs, shackles, and chloroform. This adds to the theory Jonker had about the couple conducting these rituals somewhere else. The assumption of satanic rituals wasn't so far-fetched either. You see, in the late 1980s, South Africa was embroiled in political turmoil, with protests erupting and violence increasing all across the country. Against this backdrop of social unrest, a new kind of anxiety began to take root, a belief that satanic rituals and occult practices were spreading rapidly across the nation. The fright grew so strong that the South African Police, or SAP, established a dedicated occult-related crimes unit led by Jonker, that occult specialist, who became known as the country's foremost occult expert, called in whenever cases hinted at ritualistic elements. It was within this atmosphere that the crimes of Gert Van Rooyen and Joey Haroff came to light. When the young girls vanished in their orbit, speculation quickly turned to the possibility of neighbors described Gert Van Rooyen's house as having been a fortress, and the fact that none of the girls were ever found has only deepened this mystery. Now, much like the satanic panic in the US and Europe during the same time period, South Africa's fears reflected the country's anxieties at a time during intense political change, rising crime rates, and an overall sense that pervaded society that society itself was spinning out of control. In Gert Van Rooyen's case, the lack of answers about what really happened to the girls left space for these theories to grow. For many, the possibility that the children had been lost to became a way for them to help explain the unexplainable. Additionally, Gert Van Rooyen's own son, Flippy, publicly claimed after his father's death that the couple had the missing 6 girls in satanic rites their bodies in acid. Flippy was later charged with perjury for the statement, among others we will get into soon, but this would make sense as to why the girls would never be found anywhere. Now, speaking of Flippy, he himself was sentenced to death in June of 1991 for the murder of a teenage girl from Zimbabwe. His sentence was changed to life in prison, and he was actually later released on parole, which is pretty horrifying. Fascination with children and murder runs in the family, I guess. So this kid's dad and the dad's girlfriend, wife, whatever, was abducting children, and the son also goes on to a child. I mean, it really does run in the family in this case. The more popular theory of what happened to the girls, though, is that they were and sold into a much wider... Given what we've talked about on this show already, this is not out of the realm of possibility. The fear of ritualistic activity became entwined with speculation about, suggesting that some believed exploitation could serve both financial and ritualistic purposes. So, you gotta understand, the socio-political landscape of 1980 South Africa created a fertile ground for such crimes. Forced relocations, family separations due to migrant labor policies, and widespread poverty had left children in South Africa in townships and rural homelands particularly susceptible to and exploitation. Gert van Rooyen knew this, and he targeted these vulnerable communities, luring in young girls and children with promises of employment, money, love, and attention, only to then... Gert van Rooyen's construction business provided him with access to domestic workers and others who could also allegedly help facilitate these schemes. The disappearance of the girls raised suspicions of a more extensive... And once again, Gert van Rooyen's son, Flippy, later alleged that some of the missing girls were taken overseas, specifically to the Middle East, and suggested that prominent political figures may have been involved in a